Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados live right here on Thinking Critical YouTube. We've had an action-packed week in comic books and comic book movies and everything. And apparently everyone has turned off their cameras but me. So you get this pretty face and a bunch of avatars here for the show. Gonna have a great time. Returning to the channel. First time in a long time to talk about all this big DC Comics news. We got Dylan, the real comic book gamer. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to talk about all this comic book news.
So what's going on with the real comic book gamer? You got the streams going? What's happening?
I'm going to be doing a video for the Death of Superman anniversary, so I'm excited about that, and that's currently what I'm working on.
Very nice. Are you excited about the new stories?
Yeah, I hope it's good. At least we got some cool variant covers. That Lee Weeks one is amazing.
Well, we also got all the original creators coming back, so that's good news.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you like the Star Wars streaming and video games, and you like Superman, definitely go check out the Real Comic Book Gamer. There's a link to everybody's YouTube channels and social medias and stuff in the video description. Also returning, we have Gabe from Comical Opinions and Weird Science. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on this beautiful Saturday morning.
Hey, are you going to show your pretty face? What's going on?
Fine. I'll show my pretty face. How's that?
There you go.
How's that for a pretty face?
This guy he's the, I was almost said you were the Don Johnson, but you're not the Don Johnson. You're the, what is it?
Tom Selleck.
The Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
Of Thinking Critical. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not wearing my Hawaiian shirt today, but that's quite all right. Thank you for having me.
Still got the mustache.
Well, yeah, I trimmed it up a little bit today.
Very nice. What's going on with Comical Opinions? You got any articles or big comic books people should be looking out for?
More reviews than I know how to handle at this point. And this is going to be, this week was big. Next week is going to be even bigger. I'm starting to get a lot more indie submissions coming in. And everybody who's waiting for those, hang tight. We're just backlogged. It's just too much. But a lot of good stuff's coming in. A lot of interesting stuff coming in. We may even have Born of Blood #2 coming up soon, so we'll see how that goes. Ooh.
Speaking of Born of Blood, we do have the writer, Drew from Comics Lead. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. Glad to be here. Yeah, I'm anxious to talk about some comic book news, and I'm very anxious to hear Gabe's review of Born of Blood 2.
Well, you better watch out. That man, he takes a knife to comic book reviews. You know what I'm saying? He'll bleed all over.
I don't pull punches.
Yep. Hey, Joe warned me. Joe Corella warned me. It's like, are you right? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, Joe knows better as well as anyone that we don't pull punches. So we'll see how that goes.
Also returning first time, long time, Josh McDonald, who's been doing real work for the last, 3 or 4 weeks, has been with us. We finally have our DC Comics aficionado back. How you doing, Josh?
Finally, the Mac has come back
The Mac.
to Thinking Critical. How is the Mac doing, Wes? How is the Mac doing? Wes, how are you doing?
Doing all right.
It doesn't matter how you're doing, Wes. The Mac is feeling rooty, tooty, fresh and fruity, smacked it on your mama's booty, knick-knack, paddywhack, gave your sister titty slap. Good to be back on the 2.0 Doctor's Right show.
Talking right.
And this preview of Black Adam has been brought to you by Comics Aficionados.
Oh, come on. That dude's a great actor. What is that all about?
No, seriously, I'm good. I'm happy to be back. It's nice to be able to come back and talk about comics. So good to be here.
Just in time for John Kent to finally come out. Did you know he was gay?
What? He's gay?
Apparently.
I just thought he was drunk when he kissed that guy. Jesus. What's the world coming to?
He came out again this week. My goodness. Obviously, we'll get to that here in a while. We've got the DC Comics reboot to hit first. But first, we need to talk to Doc. How you doing, Doc?
I don't have anywhere near as good of an intro as Josh, so he's also prettier than me. Yeah, he kind of stole any amount of my thunder, but thank you for remembering that this is the Doc is Right show.
Well, Doc, we do have a video coming up tomorrow where we're going to talk about Magneto and Judgment Day and all the wackiness going on in the big Marvel crossover event.
Yeah, we do, and we also and it makes me hate comic books some more.
We kind of do that. And apparently, the worst of the week is returning. The people have spoken, Doc, and we're going to go out there. We're going to find the very worst comic book we can get our hands on. We're going to talk about pretty much every week.
And that, you know what? Considering that last time it was a game of chicken between you and I to see who would quit comics first, you lost. This is your chance for redemption, sir. You might get me to quit. Yeah. See if you can get me to quit this time.
We'll see what happens. Now, we do have some amazing stuff to talk about. We got to talk about the big DC Comics reboot. We got the Marvel Insider kind of exposing what's going on with the MCU and quite a few other things to get to. But before we do that, I do want to say thank you very much to our sponsor this week, award-winning screenwriter Frank Zanka and his company, Destiny Horizons. Their feature product right now is Destiny Aurora, a science fiction graphic novel. You can also pre-order The Lords of LA, his 48-page R-rated graphic novel that was recently successfully funded on Kickstarter. Support today's sponsor by visiting www.destinyaurora.net. And we do have a little presentation for you. Check this bad boy out. All tired of waiting for Marvel and DC Comics to get their acts together. It's important we all come together and support independent comic book creators like award-winning screenwriter Frank Zanka and his graphic novel Destiny Aurora. 150 pages of beautifully illustrated, action-packed sci-fi adventure. No identity politics, no subverting expectations, no hidden agendas. Just good old-fashioned heroic storytelling. The Destiny Aurora universe includes not only the 150-page graphic novel, but an additional 4 novels, a board game, and an RPG. There's an entire new universe waiting to be discovered. Visit www.destinyaurora.net today and support great comic books created with you in mind, real comic book readers. What do you think about that, Josh? Pretty fancy, huh?
It looks really good, brother, especially compared to all this crap that we're getting. So I'm happy to see all these kind of independent writers come forward and do their own thing. I shouldn't say independent writers. Writers come forward and do something independently because God knows we need it.
I will say this. If you go to www.destinyaurora.net today during the show and you go out there and you purchase something, let us know in the comments section. We'll definitely give you a shout out and a thank you very much for supporting the sponsor. Once again, thank you very much to Frank Zanka and Destiny Horizon for sponsoring today's live stream. Really appreciate that. And he's got some more stuff coming up. I know there's a Kickstarter, I believe another Kickstarter coming on the horizons, and he's got some other products. So definitely check that one out. Let's get into the show. We do have to talk about DC Comics is relaunching less than 2 years after their last relaunch. Josh, you are the DC Comics aficionado. What do you think of Dawn of DCU? Is it about time?
It didn't come fast enough, and it's coming way too quickly all at the same time. I'm mostly looking forward to the interviews and commentary that DC has, where they're like, no, it's not a reboot. It's just a soft reboot, as if there's really a difference. But no, I think we can all agree they need to change something. I'm not sure I have much faith in what they'll change it to, that it'll actually be quality, but I guess we can wait and see. I'm going to hope for the best, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Dawn of DCU is kind of a weird name, though, isn't it? The DCU's been around for a while.
Yeah. That's typically something that you're going to, I guess, title something when you're starting something. And yeah, our DC Comics universe has been around for a good chunk of time.
We'll see what it changes. Obviously, we brought in Dylan. He's also a ringer when it comes to DC Comics. Were you excited? Are you nervous? What do you think about this big reboot?
Yeah, like Josh said, it's about time, but also it's really fast considering we just had one with Dark Knight's Death Metal. But I'm nervous because Williamson's been the one that's doing all of this, but also it seems like he's going to go away immediately after this to do like independent stuff in Substack. So that's not a good idea when your architect is like, hey, here's this brand new shiny thing. Also, peace, I'm out. So that doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence, but there definitely needed to be a reboot with how crappy DC is right now. But also, if they're not going to be shaking up the creative teams, then it's kind of weird with a reboot. So I'm not sure. Like Tom Taylor, it looks like he's going to be staying on Nightwing after this, which I'm not a fan of that. So I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see how it all goes down.
Nightwing was put up for an award as the best comic book ever.
Yeah. Bruno Redondo deserves something for that, but no one else on that book.
The art is so good, but it's such a stagnant series. That's a problem with a lot of DC stuff nowadays. Now, Gabe, obviously you do a lot of DC Comics reviews as well. What are you looking out for this? Are you think it's going to go well? Do you think we're going to get new creatives? Do you think they're just putting a new coat of paint on, the lemon that we're already reading right now?
Probably the latter. Right off the bat, there's some confusing points to this that don't really sit well. Just not necessarily that they're upsetting or anything, but they just don't sort of gel. One of the things is they were Josh Williamson and several other folks in DC have been saying for quite a while, this isn't a reboot. We're not rebooting the DC universe. And then 3 issues in, it's Dark Crisis is a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths. 3 issues in, so all of a sudden they're changing the name, trying to cash in on that nostalgia factor, and also giving the impression that it's a reboot when they've been explicitly stating it's not a reboot. And then here we are 2 or 3 months later, and now it's we're introducing something that implies that it's a reboot. I don't think anybody has formally said that, but using the dawn of the new DCU sort of gives that impression. Also, using DCU as the moniker sounds a little too close to DCYOU, which doesn't have a lot of good feelings for those who are around in that particular period of time. So everything about how this process has gone through the last, say, 4 to 6 months has been a series of backpedals, retrofits, and redos from whatever Williamson's original vision was, and that's not a good thing. Second thing is exactly to the point that was made earlier. If you're not replacing the editorial and the creative teams, you're wasting your time. Everything that's gone wrong with DCU within the last several years all comes back to the editorial decisions, the strategy of DCU to publish their stories and their content going forward, and the creative teams they've selected to implement that strategy, right, wrong, or indifferent. If you're not changing any of that, and all you're going to do is tell me that, well, we're simplifying the universe and going forward with new stories, but we're using the same people to do it, then honestly, you're just wasting everybody's time. I hate to sound harsh about that, and that's a very harsh statement, but I truly believe that to be the case. If you're not shaking up the editorial and the creatives, you're just wasting everybody's time. It's not even a thin coat of paint; it's a thin coat of veneer. It's like a little clear layer of shellac on top of it to make it seem shiny when it's still cracked and broken underneath.
Gabe, you're 100% correct, because that's what happened with the DC Rebirth. Yeah, they had the splintering factions in DC who were not on board with DC Rebirth. They wanted to keep telling the stories as is. They felt they're getting into the fans. Don't do that. Don't give the fans what they want. And if you keep around these knuckleheads, nothing's going to change. Keep around the Teenie Howards, the Leah Williams, the Clunrats. Nothing is going to change at all.
And the other thing I was a little bit weird about that is every time they've done an accelerated form of reboot over the last couple of years, they've anchored it to a particular character. So if you go back to New 52 and into Rebirth, it was sort of centered around the Flash. It's not really sort of exactly, but sort of with going from Wally and then Barry Allen, and then somehow with trying to work in Dr. Manhattan, but not really. And then when you get to the metal event, then it was all centered around Wonder Woman. Now they're trying to center it around Nightwing. So it seems that they try to anchor to a particular character. And at this point, it looks like they're just anchoring to the character that just happens to be somewhat popular at the moment. So because right now, of all the characters that are going through, excluding Batman, because he's always a top seller, Nightwing seems to be the only character that has sort of a universal appeal, at least for the nostalgia factor, if not necessarily the story, which hasn't moved an iota in the last year and a half almost. He seems to be the popular character, and they're anchoring on him. To me, that seems kind of haphazard and slapdash. Because why would you reboot the universe but not center around, like, Superman or Wonder Woman or Batman, somebody who is part of that trinity, to kind of go to Nightwing as the center of an entire line-wide reboot, if that's what it truly is, seems just sort of ill-conceived, I guess is the word you want to say for that.
So what's the response been at Comics Elite, Drew? You guys excited? You're nervous? Apprehensive? You're going to get some new variant covers, right? Because everything's going to get rebooted to #1.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be partnering with a bunch of them. I know that. Partnering with a bunch, having a bunch coming down the line. But we're cautiously optimistic. Just like you said, Gabe and I just talked about the new going back to DC Rebirth, just things I'm sure things may start off great, best case scenario, but things will just quickly devolve. If there's no figurehead there with an overall vision sticking around, keeping people in line, the quality is going to dip very fast. And like we said earlier, if you keep these knuckleheads around, nothing is going to change. And we really got to see a shakeup in the creatives. and the editorial staff.
So, Dylan, one of the cool things is we know Geoff Johns is returning. He's got his JSA series. He's got this Golden Age one shot. He's also got Stargirl. And it says that it's supposed to tie into the end of Dark Crisis or whatever. There's a chance, perhaps, that Geoff Johns will be returning to the fold and maybe having a bigger voice in comic books.
I hope so, because obviously that was the last time that it felt like DC really knew what they were doing when he was in charge with Rebirth and the beginning of Doomsday Clock. So I'd love for him to come back. And JSA seems like it's going to be a prominent book, especially with them playing a big role in the Black Adam movie. They're going to want to, shuffle people to the comics as well. So I'm hoping that he's back at the forefront in DC and actually leading things, because that it was so disappointing when he was doing Doomsday Clock and it was great. And then you had like Bendis, Snyder, and Tom King all also trying to do their like big universe wide ideas. And it was like, no, we can't, you can't drop Geoff Johns for these guys. And then they did. And so hopefully he's actually back for good now and actually does some more leading for DC, because he's the only one that I really trust, honestly.
Not even like a Peter Tomasi, if they brought him back and were like, Peter's going to be the Superman group editor or something.
Oh, I would trust him, but it doesn't seem like DC wants anything to do with him for some reason. Like, they kind of just dropped him. They're like they forgot his name. Like, he exists. It's weird. Tomasi's been one of the most solid guys at DC, but I don't see them bringing him back. It just seems like they don't even remember him at all. It's very odd.
Yeah, you just got that little Super Sons, 5-page story. And that Belle Reeve thing. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. But I know, they occasionally
don't read it. It's bad.
Uh,
they get explained on pronouns and non-binary stuff. It was so weird.
That's sad, because I like the one shot he did for Super Sons. That was good. But yeah, they kind of just bring him back occasionally, be like, oh yeah, you're the guy that wrote Super Sons. You can do this one anniversary thing, and then just go piss off until then. It's like, okay.
So this is one of the responses I hear a lot, Dylan. This is Jimmy from Comic Works. He's been editing some of the videos lately. He says, but Geoff Johns recently wrote a Crisis book that ruined the entire universe. I'm assuming he's talking about Flashpoint.
Yeah. Well, he's also wrote that with 2 other people. So there is that as well. That's not just him.
There had to be some Grant Morrison in on that ruining stuff, right?
You'd think it would make sense. But you got isn't Tyler Sheridan on that, or who's Jeremy Adams is on it, and who's the other guy? I can't remember.
Oh, he's talking about no, I think he's talking about
he's
Flashpoint itself, not Flashpoint
Beyond. Oh, I thought he meant Flashpoint Beyond with the whole Joker thing and all that. Flashpoint itself, I liked Flashpoint, although New 52, wasn't the best. I thought Flashpoint was a good event book.
Yeah, but New 52 was what came out of it.
Yeah, New 52. I don't really blame as much as Flashpoint set that up and reboot everything. I thought Flashpoint was a solid book.
Hey, they didn't reboot Geoff Johns stuff. They kept Green Lantern.
Yeah, Green Lantern literally acted like nothing happened.
I was about to say, we also have to keep in mind that was 100% Dan DiDio. That was Dan DiDio and his initiative leading, having Flashpoint be the source that would lead to New 52, and then New 52 was DiDio's initiative as well. So I think Johns is in the clear on that one.
All right, Doc, you were more of a Marvel fan. Are you enjoying sitting on the outside laughing at all the DC fans as we go through another reboot? I think Dylan's only 22 years old or something. He's probably been through 8 reboots now.
Yeah, I kind of am. Kind of amusing. DC's the company that, going back as far as I remember in comics, because, Crisis would have been about, what was that, 86, 85?
85, I believe.
Yeah, so I was 5 years old. So I wasn't even really reading comics yet. And DC's the company that's always felt like they needed to fix problems that weren't problems. And do so with reboots. And they've been doing it my entire fucking life. So look, DC needs to learn one lesson from a management perspective, because that's kind of what I do in real life. They need to realize that all the stuff that they're doing right now is obviously not working. So their solution is not to reboot. It's a basic HR and management belief, which is either you change the person or you change the person. So you either have to change who these writers are as writers, or you have to replace the writer. You have to replace the creatives. You have to replace the editors. You have to make editors actually do their fucking job. Or you find editors that do their job. You find writers that can sell fucking comic books. Or you either make the current writers learn to sell comic books, or you replace them with writers that do sell comic books. It's really that simple. It's basic business operations. When shit's not working right, you fix the person or you replace the person.
We need to bring in Brian Lee O'Malley and put him on Superman. That's what we need to do.
I think that would be a terrible decision because
he sold comic books once.
I don't care, because the last thing you need is fucking Scott Superman.
That'd be great.
What? He's going to be running around trying to find every dude that Lois fucked before him. No.
You could have said bang. You don't actually have to use the F word on that one.
Yeah, you got a good point.
Family show.
Is it with my mouth? Is it really a family show?
It's a family mouth, Doc.
Dysfunctional family show.
Yes. It's a family show for the trailer park.
No wonder I feel right at home.
I know, right?
So we need to hire some manga writers to come in and write Batman is what we need to do.
Well, that's been done, and it's not necessarily a bad idea.
It's also not necessarily a good idea.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you one of these days. I'm going to get you to start reading manga. You're not going to get away from it. I'm telling you. It's a matter of time. I'm going to get you.
I'm pretty sure I had a girlfriend that was trying to do that.
Don't compare me to one of your French girlfriends. I don't want to know about that.
Leonardo DiCaprio for T'Challa.
Yeah, Titanic. Yeah.
There's your Titanic river.
Yeah.
Yes. So, look, there are writers out there that can sell fucking comic books. The problem is none of them work for DC. And the other problem is that DC doesn't want to hire any of them because they're not the people that they want to be working there. And at some point, there's going to be they're going to have to figure this out. Either they'll be forced to figure it out or they will be outsourced. But I'm sitting here watching DC reboot for the sixth time in a decade.
It's a lot of reboots. So Josh, the big rumor is
Captain Marvel.
It's Todd McFarlane potentially coming in, and people think he's going to run it. I think they might license it out or something. Do you think there's something going on behind the scenes between DC Comics and Todd McFarlane?
I mean, look, they're probably negotiating something because if you can get Todd McFarlane, why not? But I don't think it's going to be anything for a staple position. I think it's going to be for like one-offs here and there. And if they do get him something that's staple, like maybe he is like headlining a book, or he is,
or maybe they license out 3 or 4 characters that they can't do well, like they did with Marvel Knights back in the day.
Possibly. My only thought is Todd McFarlane is so busy he's not going to be able to keep it up.
He doesn't have to write it; he just has to manage it.
I know. I'm just saying, like he's already a busy guy, so we'll see. If he's managing it, that would be better. But
no, I think he would just acquire it, and he would be the guy that's acquired the license to do the publishing himself.
Yeah, I mean, hey, why not? So
you got Batman Spod coming out. He's doing these original comics for the Page Puncher stuff.
I mean, look, it's better than what we're getting, so I'm not going to say no.
It would not shock me to see them attempt it. Marvel has successfully done this same process twice in the past. DC loves copying Marvel's homework. They did it with They did it by hiring both Extreme Studios and Wildstorm Studios to run, essentially to produce for them within their own line. They threw them a couple, $10 million, $50 million, something like that. Here, make 2 years of comics for us. And we'll keep all the revenue, but we paid you a big upfront cost, so you have to actually sell for us to get our money back. And then they did a similar deal with Event Comics with Marvel Knights. And what, Todd, I think it might take him a little while, but he's already with his expansion of his Spawn line, figuring out how to manage multiple books and multiple creative teams from a management perspective. Yep. He's figuring that out. I think it's not really a big, if they give him 4 books, 5 books, same way that, Marvel did with Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti. Todd has the connections to go out and hire the right teams to run those books. He makes sure that they're written, drawn, inked, lettered, colored, and off to the editor to go to the printer. And that's all the printer does. That's
give him like Wally West, Green Lantern, maybe a Teen Titans book or something like that.
Oh, if they do that,
notable characters that just aren't doing well right now. I wouldn't do Wonder Woman.
Oh, you know what?
One of the Trinity, but
well, actually, it would probably make sense for them to give him Wally, because right now Brett's working for Todd. His run on Gunslinger Spawn's probably not going to last for more than 2 years.
Well, Brett's already working with Artist Elite Comics, I think.
Yes, but that's for his own creator-owned stuff that he's been working on in the past for the past 3 or 4 years. Because he's been working on like Lost Serpent Prince, and I can't remember the other name of his other creator-owned book. He's been working on those in his free time for a couple of years now, and I know he's working with you guys, Drew, over at Comics Elite with Artist Elite, but he's still doing a monthly book on Gunslinger Spawn. He's already working with Todd on a regular basis, and I guarantee he would fucking love to do a Wally West book. So Todd gets that. He knows exactly who to call and exactly who's going to actually sell that book.
Yeah. So Gabe, I know you're kind of in the business world and stuff. I know you keep an eye on these things. Mm-hmm. My sources have told me that the accounting departments associated with Discovery had already come in and started asking questions about DC Comics specifically. They're doing these character Bibles and stuff behind the scenes. Obviously, we're getting this big reboot. Do you think this is a last gasp or a last opportunity to make DC Comics as we currently know it, the publishing line, work before they start making changes? Do you think that's kind of what's going on here, or could it be?
I think there's potential for that happening. What I'm waiting for to really kind of give me that big signal about where they're headed is I'm waiting for the January solicits. That's after Dark Crisis is done. That's where we see where the titles and the lines start to line up and what they're doing with the characters. Is it the same creative teams? Is it the same stories? Do the solicit descriptions all look the same? If that's what we see in January, then there's some grave concerns about what DC is going forward in its current state. Now, if they're pulling the Bibles together, could they farm that out? Sure. I mean, it's sort of natural to get those Bibles together because maybe Zaslav or whoever he has working down for him are looking to realign the creative teams with talent from other areas. That's a possibility. The piece that I kind of like pause a little bit on the McFarlane idea is okay. So the creatives and the editors at DC right now, collectively, not any one, well, I could name some names, but not any one individual is at fault. I mean, collectively, the quality of talent is not very great. I think that's more driven by how much DC is willing to pay more than anything else. I think it's a budget thing. I think it's a budget thing more than anything else. So if you hold that in your mind and you say, okay, Todd, you go do it. Well, Todd McFarlane's not going to pick up that burden and run with it if it's not financially beneficial for him. So if they're struggling to hire talent now for people like associate editors, junior editors, and everything else, well, how are they going to afford whatever McFarlane's going to? He's not going to take a loss on this. He's not going to pick up those lines and run with it when it's not going to, when he's not going to make some decent money out of it. Why would they do that? So if that's going to be the case, why would he take that on if he's not going to have the money to be able to sustain that going forward? So if they can't hire the talent now, why would he do it in the future? And so McFarlane's no dummy. He's a shrewd businessman. There's no way he would do that and and then take a loss on it. So if I was DC, what I would do is I'd rather say take that money and reinvest it in your staff, hire better editors, hire better. Why is Tomasi not on the book? Probably because he can't afford him. If I had to guess, I would say immediately because he couldn't afford him, because he knows his worth. He knows what he can pull off, and he knows what page rates he can insist on. So if they can't afford to pay that, how are they going to afford a contract that McFarlane is going to be okay with going forward? I mean, it's possible, but I'm just not seeing it unless they farm it out to some lower tier creative house that's going to take those books and run with it.
IDW.
Maybe IDW.
Pedrontos. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, it's possible, but I mean, I think most of it is driven by money. Most of this question is driven by money. And if DC can't afford their people now, how are they going to afford a better deal for somebody else going forward? Nobody would take a loss on that. So it doesn't make sense to me.
I have a question for you. Because here's the thing. Okay, say they're going to take the money and invest it. Your argument is, well, why not just invest it in the house you already have? Mm-hmm. I think there's an argument to be made that DC has at least 10, if not closer to 15-year track record right now of being unable to determine where to invest that money properly. Mm-hmm. So there's absolutely an argument to be made that going to an outside creative direction with none of the baggage, none of the existing holdovers, complete outsourcing of the project would give them an idea of whether or not the people that they have right now, is it a problem in the market? Is it a problem with our characters not resonating? Is it a problem with this or that? Or is it our people? And like from top to bottom. And we need a full housekeeping, like a full house cleaning. And I think that's the reason why you do outsource. You put the money behind it, you outsource. Because there's absolutely an argument to be made that DC has spent a decade now demonstrating that they don't know how to effectively use any money that they are given. So why give them a big bank?
No, I agree with you, but I'm looking at it from both sides of that argument, which is McFarlane will look at that and say, this is a monster of a mess. He would have to personally invest time, energy, resources, capabilities, everything to make it work. Now, to be fair, I could see and DC has to keep their cut of the license, so that's going to reduce his margin, and he has to make something out of it. Now, to be fair, I could see a deal where he says you get 20% of the cut off the licenses just from sales and everything else, and then for X amount over that sales, if you can produce some good books that everybody loves that sells like gangbusters, then you get an additional bonus percentage like that. Maybe something like that could work. So there's a possibility. But it's a tough hill to climb. It just really is. Well,
I think you're looking at it as licensing it. I don't think they have any intention of licensing it. They are going to the deal that Marvel had with Event Comics, the deal that they had with
IDW.
Extreme. No, I'm not talking about IDW. Fuck the IDW deal.
They had the Marvel.
I know they had the Marvel Action Series, and that was a fine deal for Marvel. It was a terrible deal for IDW, and Todd would never make that deal because licensing the superhero content of someone else, the IP, is a bad deal for anyone that has it, because the cost is so high that you can't make money. It's almost virtually impossible to make money. The best you will do is grow your brand name as the publisher of it. No, the deal that like Marvel did with Event and Extreme and Wildstorm back in the day, Marvel got 100% of the money. They literally just basically wrote a check to each studio for $20 million. And in this, you have these 6 titles. You have to deliver me 12 issues of each title every month, or over the course of a year. And how you do that on the check that we wrote you is up to you. We get all the money.
We shall see. Obviously the Todd McFarlane stuff is mostly speculation at this point. I haven't actually heard any of the actual rumors. Although I will say, with the character Bibles, the belief, at least from what I understand behind the scenes, is that they're getting ready to potentially license it out. And McFarlane was the name that people were thinking about. Let's talk about some of the super chats that we have. Lane Kramer says, Doc comes out. He's the #1 Krakoan X-Men fan right now.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Love it. Love it. Love the Hicksman era, the fucking drug dealing segregationist plant clones.
All right. Maybe that's not for Doc. Ideator Josh had his morning cocaine. Welcome back.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, good morning.
The drip. Get the drip.
Start looking side to side.
Yeah.
He was all nervous.
Man, I'm sweating.
Cal Wild wants to know, what did Titty Howard do to Diana? That's a good question. That was bad comic, Gabe.
Nothing good. Nothing good.
Did you find it also to be Mad Libs where it's just so randomness?
Okay, so
maybe have to do a full review. I already did one, but you can just give your thoughts.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand because my perception of the assignment was each one of the major Justice League members are trapped in a pocket universe that is supposed to be their own personal paradise. The idea is to keep them so enamored with the moment that they're stuck in this little bubble or whatever it is that you want to call it, that they don't want to leave, so that they can't join the fight against the Dark Crisis. They're basically hypnotized, if you want to call it that. Why is it that every single one of these one-shots with these Justice League members where they're trapped in their own personal paradise has been awful, miserable, weird, or doesn't make sense for the character? I don't understand. Either I don't understand the homework assignment, or all these creators don't understand the homework assignment. Maybe it's me, and I'm okay with that. But from the way it's been described, none of these one-off issues make sense. I don't get it. None of these make sense for a personal paradise for each one of these characters, and I don't get it.
If you're hearing this now and you're wondering what the hell's going on, go check out my video I did yesterday. Try to explain this damn thing. It was nonsense is the best word I could come up with. Dylan Lane says it should be rebooted. Welcome to Infinite Abyss. Huh?
It'd definitely be a more fitting name, but I don't think DC would go for it.
Dawn of the Infinite Abyss. Everything sucks and we're proud of it.
We got Tom Taylor.
Roddy Boy Comics right here, the PI. Hello, Western aficionados. Hope everything's good. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you're here and enjoyed the panel. I owe you an email, sir. I'm so sorry. I forgot to reply to you a few days ago. I feel terrible, but thank you so much for supporting the channel. Callum Lyle, who is better off with? Because I dread Mark Waid taking charge because I've heard the stories, or Geoff Johns, who can't sell but he's expensive. Who can sell but he's expensive.
Oh, I would not mind Mark Waid at this point taking charge. Honestly, we interviewed Mark Waid a few weeks ago, and it really seems like he has a good head on his shoulders with the stories he wants to tell. And I think that's a good idea. It's not a bad idea at this point.
Did you ask him any type of difficult question? Because you might need a different Mark Waid.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Because I saw somebody when it wrote a review, called it a 9.5 on one of his heroes, or on one of his world's finest comic books, and just said, I found this moment hokey. Yes, it was you, wasn't it, Gabe? Maybe. And he did a whole dissertation about how you were wrong because he couldn't take one little snippet of criticism.
Yes. It was the issue where they did that. What was it? Where Superman concentrated real hard and managed to take Green Lantern's ring off of it because he concentrated real hard. And Mark Waid came in with this whole thing about, for anybody in the chat who doesn't know, he came in with this whole thing about, well, there's precedence and it's canonically, consistent and everything else. And my response is, A, I gave you a good grade, so stop complaining. B, just because something is canonically present doesn't mean you need to propagate it. Not everything that's in canon was a good idea. That doesn't mean you should reuse it. So Mark, I think I've said this before, Mark Waid is the test. Mark Waid is the quintessential separate the art from the artist type of test. If you go by his writing ability, he's great. I would put him and Johns together in roughly the same level of quality and everything else. If you go by their personalities, Waid has an earned reputation for not being somebody who's fun to work with. So it is what it is. Either one of them, I think, would do fine. And I think, if you can separate the art from the artist, you're in great shape with either one of those choices.
Right. Geoff Johns is making a lot of money as like the number one consultant for the DCEU like shows, and I think he's done a lot of work on the movies and stuff. So I hope he comes back with more likely, I guess, Mark Waid probably.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing the Superman and Lois show on CW. That show is still great. I mean, the new season hasn't come out yet, but that show is great. Stargirl is out right now. I'm enjoying that a lot. So, for whether you believe the rumors about him or not, depending on who you ask, he can still write some great superhero stuff. So I don't know.
Very nice. We've also got Roman. I think it's Jakowicz supporting the channel. I believe that's Icelandic Crota. Nice to see supporting from Iceland. I don't see a comment here or a question, but if you have one, put it in the chats and we'll try to get to it. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. We've got Eric O'Sullivan, the old Sultan himself, the Sultan of Soup. Good morning, Wes. Good morning, panel. Good morning to the awesome live chat to have conversations about comic books. Here's to you. Cheers. Mention Doc and get 50% off your next bowl of soup. Hell yeah. You go to this little restaurant, you say, Doc was right. You get 50% off a bowl of chili. What do you think, Doc? That celebrate you, right?
I think chili's not soup, so I'm fine with a bowl of chili for 50% off.
There's no way that chili is not soup. It's got to be soup, right, Gabe? You're voice of reason. Is chili soup?
Chili is not soup. Chili is closer to stew.
Yes.
Isn't a stew a form of soup?
Nope.
No. It's its own category.
That's mind blowing. We're gonna have to hear from the viewers on this one. Is chili soup? I'd say it's soup, especially if you get some of that like white bean, like chicken chili or whatever. It's got more broth to it. You know what I'm saying?
I support your right to be wrong.
Gotcha. This guy, he's always on the Doc is right bandwagon. I don't even know what's up with it. My goodness. Atomic Hound, who's the one that suggested I do that Wonder Woman video yesterday.
Oliver.
Thank you so much for the suggestion. Is this the first Didio initiative or post-Didio initiative? I've been giving Javin some benefit of the doubt since 5G preceded her pandemic, etc. Not to excuse this mess, but the DC Titanic has been headed for this iceberg for a while.
Hey.
Well, as far as I can tell, Child of the Amazons and everything associated with Wonder Woman is Marie Javins herself. Obviously, post-Didio, we did have Future State, which was a reconfiguration of 5G, which led into Infinite Frontier, which has been an absolute mess. I know the direction's not good right now, Dylan. That's the issue.
No, it's not. And they haven't really stuck to their guns on anything either. They're like, here's we got a not 5G, Future State. All right, after Future State, we got Infinite Crisis. But no one really cares about Infinite Crisis. Here's all these new characters. Oh, actually, we're going to go back to the characters you like. Like, they're not sticking with anything, and no one cares about the new stuff they keep introducing. So here's hoping they get it right for, like, the 18th time.
Right. So the Sultan of Soup himself is saying that chili is soup adjacent, Doc.
Maybe soup adjacent, but yes, I mean, it is not a complete and utter solid, sure. But it is not a soup.
I don't know, Doc. How much do you blame all this on Jim Lee and Marie Javins as the publisher and the editor in chief?
Completely. I mean, look. At the end of the day, Jim is responsible for the people that work there.
And one of his job titles is to make sure that the characters are presented correctly across all mediums, including comic books.
Yes. Exactly, and he has failed at that. He hasn't disposed of poor editorial. They remain employed. Look, if there was one thing that Jim had always been good at, in my opinion, maybe not on the writing side, but on the art side, he was an excellent talent evaluator. Going back to his Wildstorm days, I'm seeing no evidence that he's even looked at one of these comics in the past 2 years. Because even just not even reading them, just flipping through them, because the editor, the writing, the artistic staff, outside of like maybe 5 or 6 people at DC, is atrocious.
They've had a couple of good guys come in.
Yeah,
Miguel Mendoza, Daniel Sampri.
Well, as
Ricardo
I said,
Federici.
outside of about 5 or 6 people, the rest of them they are not even close to ready for prime time level artists. Like, these are people that should be cutting their teeth on indie books, not working on, a big 2 publisher or like a big 2 product. So yeah, it's his fault. Now, Marie Javins, I'm sorry, this is demonstrating a complete and utter ineptitude from her.
Absolutely. Cal Lyle says, what worries me is who's writing the DC Bibles. Now, this is the way I understand it, Gabe. It's not the writers that are doing this because they're not a part of like DC Comics. They're freelancers. They would have to like write a new contract that says you're going to create the whatever Bible for this character. So it's the staff, assumingly, or I would assume that it's like the editors and maybe some, I don't know, some part-timers that come in and, that are doing apprenticeships or whatever. Does that worry you?
Yes. If you take a look at the current crop of assistant editors and whatnot, if they're writing the character Bibles, there is a significant concern that they're writing the Bibles in accordance with the characters as they are today. That is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. They should have some kind of research assistants or historians that are pulling the characters together from probably. What I would do is I would say, go back and look at the character's best run, the run that's considered the most quintessential for that character, and then formulate your Bible against that. That's what I would do. Now, if there isn't something like that, then I would just say, go back to the kind of the early days of that character and when they first sort of took off, and pull from there. If they're rewriting, for example, if they're writing, let's pick a character. Okay, yeah, sure. Let's if they're writing a Nubia character Bible, and they're basing that Bible off the past year of Nubia stories, then you're in trouble because somebody's going to look at that and say, "Oh, what that?" So the Well of Souls, and she remembers herself from when she was alive from Madagascar, but the Well of Souls is not supposed to let you remember your past life, and how does that? You can't make sense of it. So, the other piece of that is, I think, more concerning, if anything else, is why don't they have those Bibles already? Some of these characters have been around for decades. They should have those Bibles for a lot of those already. It should only be for newer characters or updates.
That's actually what I was going to comment on. A lot of these characters already have Bibles that were written for them and used in the past that were abandoned probably within the past 5 to 10 years. So they have something there that they can reference. And that's my hope, is that they pick it up and just, do very minor touch-ups to account for some characters or some history. But the idea that they stepped away from this, and I'm wanting to say it was around the DCU time period that they fully acknowledged they were stepping away from these. But yeah, they need to go back, just pull it up, brush it off, make minor adjustments and call it a day. Because prior to that, things were relatively good.
That is true. We've got Baby Belly asking for some recommendations. What's one omnibus I should read from DC and what from Marvel? I think you should read Crisis on Infinite Earths. That thing, that the lead up to that, get the whole thing, like the really big expensive one that takes you forever to get to. Josh, you are the DC aficionado. What's the omnibus you're recommending?
Oh, he's pulling it out.
Oh, there it is. Ed Brubaker, Gotham Central.
Yeah. Oh, what do you mean?
Okay.
Look, this is one of the best books out there, but I will say you need to have some type of foundation of information on Gotham before you start this. But it's probably one of the best written books that's out there.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, almost every of the main DC characters has some kind of omnibus associated with it, from Green Lantern to the Flash and everybody in between. So it sort of depends on what you're looking for.
Very true.
Yeah, you could do with the Legion of Superheroes in the Great Darkness.
You already got us one DC. We're on to Marvel now, Gabe. What are you doing? He said one DC, one Marvel. What's the Marvel omnibus?
My Marvel one, I don't.
No, we're talking to Gabe now.
Marvel.
He's getting one each. He's not getting 8.
Marvel suit.
All right, Doctor. You're the Marvel aficionado. What's the omnibus from Marvel you should get?
Yeah. X-Men.
Doc's not here.
I'm gonna say Rick Remender X-Force.
Hell yeah.
Uncanny X-Force?
Shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That thing is amazing.
I didn't realize I was muted.
I had to mute you
Get on
because
and
we
just
could hear
pick
your
up.
dog and it sounded like you took a poo.
That wasn't my dog.
It's Josh's dog.
You heard my dog earlier because I thought I was muted and I was getting onto him, but there was somebody shuffling at a desk or walking or something. That was not me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was laughing because we're like failing this morning.
I muted it, and as soon as it did, I couldn't hear talk, taking a two anymore.
Okay. But I would say actually the Amazing Spider-Man, the first omnibus. Actually, you know what? No. Fantastic Four omnibus number 1.
There you go. Those are our recommendations. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Darth Bobcat in the house. A DC reboot is like a new constitutional convention. Not a bad idea, but do we trust the chuckleheads in charge to do it right? That's the problem, Drew. I have no trust or faith in almost anyone associated with DC Comics. It appears Williamson is moving on his merry way. Probably will do a series or two at DC, but he's doing creator-own stuff. Tyler's doing creator-own stuff. Scott Snyder's doing creator-own stuff. Like, who can you trust?
We just talked about all this. This is exactly the point. If you don't have a figurehead in charge, sticking around, holding people accountable, then what the hell's the point of this?
Exactly. So it's a good idea. They need it. That's the point. Will they do it well? We shall see. Obviously, it'll be coming up in January. Cal Lyle, can you rely on Wade not to lose his mind again and to stop him from putting on his White Knight personality?
No.
I don't know.
It's that simple. He is an emotional child. So I'm sorry, you cannot have him as an important central part of your editorial going forward, because
White's kind of emotional. He's always getting mad at the media and stuff, and he's doing
he yells. You don't see him actively like going out, and he yells about something, and then it's gone. It's done.
No, he's blacklisted reporters for asking him tough questions for life.
Okay, fine.
One guy,
Helwani's
Ariel
gone.
Helwani, could never go to another press conference again.
But at the same time, it hasn't affected the product that he's creating. It hasn't, Dana White being an emotional man-child, and the guy that's doing creative work who's actually involved. Dana can't control how well guys fight, or anything like that. His influence, his man-childness won't affect the product. Wade's will.
Probably for the better, though. Like, let's be honest. Like, if you got Stephanie Williams up here throwing a bitch fit because Wade's being a man-child because she's wanting to do something and he's saying no, it's probably because he's trying to make her book better. So if he can come in and act like a man-child for a little bit and get rid of some of these people,
except for first of all, he will throw a giant temper tantrum the minute he's criticized internally, whether it's right or wrong. He thinks he's always right. He has the inability to self-reflect, and he would also be in favor of all the ridiculous bullshit that these weirdos want to do because he's an ally.
I don't think he would be in favor with half of what they're wanting to do. I think we can see that based on what he's doing in his book, that he wouldn't be in favor.
He wouldn't do it himself, but he'll let others.
I know you're a big UFC guy. Do you remember when all the fighters were mad because Dana White gave out a bigger tip at a casino than he was paying them to fight?
Yeah, he gave it to that millionaire YouTuber. He gave him $250,000. And also, I do want to say one thing as far as the not being able to control how well the fighters fight. Partially true, but also Dana White's Contender Series, the first week this year was horrible. Every fight went to decision, awful. Next week, he gave a huge speech to all the fighters right before they fought. Best week they ever had, all finishes. So I will say he did affect it that time. So
in the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, they all wanted to quit.
Oh, yeah.
They realized they were going to have to fight each other. I think they thought they were going to fight each other like once. But he's like, do you want to be a champion or not? I remember the speech. They all went out there and kicked each other's asses. We got the best fight in UFC history in the finale.
Well, Dylan, he just brought out a very important point, is if you're going to put somebody in a leadership position, you want somebody who can draw the best out of the people who report to them, who work for them. So kind of going back to that same point about Wade and whether or not he could be like an EIC or a senior editor or something like that, it's not just about whether or not he can control his emotions and can he still write good stuff at the same time. It's, can he get the best out of the other people that are ultimately going to report into him? I don't know. So some people respond to that drill sergeant screaming your face, like Full Metal Jacket type of method of leadership. Some people respond to that positively. A lot of people do not. So if you're going to bring out a bunch of creative teams, for the life of me, I can't picture somebody like a Stephanie.
Can you imagine Dana White giving Stephanie Phillips a speech? She thinks she's a kickboxer, right? Do you want to be a fucking writer or not? She's like, oh.
If she can't handle my reviews, she's not going to be able to handle Mark Waid going on a full-on tirade. No. That is just not going to happen. So you need somebody in a position of leadership that can bring out the best in their people according to their style of leadership. And so the current crop of creators, I can't picture one of them, maybe one or two, but not much, that would put up with him ranting and raving and screaming at them on a conference call for 2 hours out of every single day. I just don't see that happening. Could be. So he'd either have to get rid of all of them and find people who would respond to that style of leadership, or he's just not going to work in that position. Either way.
Speaking of fighting, we've got HH from Sigma Comics. He used to be an MMA fighter. He sent me a picture. I think Vitor Belfort was right behind him. I think maybe Blasavita was in there. It was like a bunch of guys that have been champions of the UFC. He's the man behind Sigma Comics. He recently got banned from New York Comic Con. Hopefully you watch that video and let your voices be heard as far as Read Pop. This is what HH and Sigma Comics have to say. Shout out to all. Keep it tuned to Thinking Critical and support these great comic book experts. Our first break of the year, and we get to enjoy Thinking Critical live. Awesome as always. Well, these guys have been traveling the United States of America, going to all the big cons. I think they might even hit Canada there for a minute. So enjoy your weekend off, sir, and I hope you're having a great time, and hopefully you get some justice regarding New York Comic Con in the very near future. Eric O'Sullivan is back, the Sultan of Soup. I love my Kirby Fourth World Omnibus, but it's literally unreadable. I can't read it on the subway or at the pub. It's too heavy at 9.6 pounds to read in bed. I'm no longer omnibus curious.
So I have a funny story about this specific omnibus. And it was one of the years that we were working Comic-Con, and Jay, one of the guys that I wrote with the Batman News, bought this while at Comic-Con. And then when he was coming back home, he had it in his bag that he was checking. But it forced his bag to be so heavy that it was going to charge like an extra like $40, $50. It was crazy. So he's like, hold on. So he opened his bag and I was like, dude, take the omnibus out and carry it. So he pulled it out and it put him like way under.
Yeah, that would suck though, is you carry that thing on.
Yeah, no, you need a good like sturdy table to read that sucker on.
And Eric's not going to build any muscle mass eating soup. Just saying.
There's plenty of protein in soup between the beans and the meat and everything. Get a little broth in there, some chicken broth.
Maybe a stew, but not soup.
Yeah, chili maybe not
your
soup.
Minds, man. Soup has been a foundational food staple for many cultures with very big people. Vikings ate soup all the time, and those were like the biggest stews in the world.
Pretty sure those were stews.
Yeah,
you guys are silly. Man, Doc, what do you think about this? Should you give up on omnibuses because they're too big?
That is one problem that I do have with them. They are awkward.
Is literally petrified that because of all the omnibuses that he's got in his apartment, that one day he's going to cave in and kill his neighbor below him.
I have the same thing now. Granted, it's not for omnibuses; it's for the filing cabinets of comics in my room, or in the room that I have everything set up in. But omnibuses are awkward. They are really like I get the point that they're supposed to be super convenient and everything, but they're really awkward to read. Most of them are. There is a very fine line between I feel like I'm getting my money's worth and holy fuck, I can't even read this thing because where in the shit am I? I can't put it in my lap. And
somebody needs to develop an omnibus stand that allows you to read it.
Well, not only that, but the gutters, when you get towards the middle of that book,
yeah, you can't see.
You lose like half the damn page.
That's true.
I mean, unless you're like breaking the spine, and
you don't want to break the spine. That kills
exactly. So you can't fucking. It's pointless. It's irritating.
Omnibuses are cool to a degree.
Yeah, I just want to point out Eric's comment that they look great on shelves. Look at Josh McDonald. I'm not gonna lie, that's why I buy omnibuses. For me, if I buy an omnibus, it's because it's a series or run or story that I thought is really good to promote. So that's why I get them. Because I know this is gonna.
Because you're all style, no substance, Josh.
That's
McDonald.
right. I am all style, no substance, Josh McDonald. But no, I read digitally now just because it's the most convenient way for me to read because I'm constantly on the go. But if people come over, this will let them know, like, hey, what's a good book to pick up? And it's just right here in their face. So
Jimmy says an omnibus stand is a table. Apparently, we've already invented it.
Like a podium. Jimmy. Like a podium with like a groove in the middle.
Like whenever you see Merlin and he's got his book, he doesn't put it on a table. He puts it on his little spell stand.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? It's
got this little like groove in the middle so it'll sit, but there's a shelf at the bottom and it's leaned towards you. Yeah, it's basically a podium.
Yeah, but it needs to be made for omnibus.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you're reading a 50-year-old comic. You're not casting a spell to change the universe. So let's
do the same things, man.
Might be.
On a serious note, I do think there's a page count that works and doesn't work, and I think once you get over 700 pages, it's way too big.
It's almost like manga companies have already figured that out.
Yeah, well, no one ever excused the North American comic book industry of not being retarded.
Thank you very much for supporting the channel, Eric. And I'm with you, man. Soup is food. These guys are insane.
Oh, it's definitely food, but chili is not soup.
Soup is like maybe the best food in the world, just as a genre of food. You know what I'm saying?
The liquid to solid ratio is too low for chili. So you get if it's. The liquid has to be the primary.
It depends on the type of chili that you're making, though. Like there are people that make a more soupy chili.
It's not soup.
Once you're putting it on a hot dog, you want a little broth in there. This is the way you stick your bread in; it sucks it all up.
It's not soup.
Whatever, man. You guys are insane. It's soup adjacent. That's enough for me. Let's talk about what's going on with the MCU. We recently had a Marvel Insider come out at WDW Pro at thatparkplace.com and kind of talking about how the issues that are affecting the MCU and how we kind of know it today. Doc, I sent the article out to you guys. What did you think? Like the two big issues that were pointed out specifically are China and Kevin Feige's ego.
Yeah, which is about where now the China part was partially surprising, partially not surprising. I do know how much Marvel has relied on, like the MCU has relied on China box office and placating the CCP in order to get released because they have a very it's China. They have a very protectionist economy over there, the same way Japan and all the other countries do. They are very protectionist in that they limit the amount of foreign films that are allowed in their theaters. So we heard about it all the way back to Iron Man 2, whenever they basically did a whole other cut with like the radioactive man that was like a big part of it. That just he was that whole
and
thing.
They put scenes into the Transformers movies to
to satisfy
appeal to the Chinese audience.
Exactly, and they made so getting away, like we knew that the whole point of the Chinese cinema allowing them in was to build the size of the Chinese cinema. People just weren't going to movies, but now they've they used Marvel to train their population to go to movies. So now they're saying, well, fuck you, get out. We want to make our own movies. I mean, and we want our people to go to the movies to see our movies, not to see your American movies. So that was always the end result. Why corporations that placate certain protectionist economies don't see beyond that one step, like seeing the next step down the road, is beyond me. But we watch it happen all the time. Like, oh my God, how did this happen? Well, because everybody with two firing neurons saw that it was coming. Now, Feige's ego, he built something on the back of by essentially not fucking up too much from the source material. He didn't deviate too much. He might have played a lot of mix and match and everything like that, but he still didn't deviate too much from the source material. And it built something wildly enormous. And he got credit for essentially just copying Stan and Jack. And not fucking with it too much. He got all the credit. Well, now he's gotten to the point where he's like, okay, now I have the cred, I have the power, I have the clout, the industry influence to do what I want to do. I built myself just riding everyone else's coattails. Now I'm going to be my own thing. And oh, wait, hey, maybe by the way, your own thing, you're not very good on your original ideas, buddy. I think that's what it comes down to. And it's kind of a surprising, there's something about ego and the ability for creatives to delude themselves into thinking that they are more responsible for the success of properties created by other people. Oh my God.
Mic is going off.
I think that's Josh.
I'm muted.
Yeah.
It was Josh.
Josh.
His screen has been flickering.
Yeah.
His dog is probably chewing on the audio cables.
You're lucky when I walked by, I could hear it because I still need to take a leak.
Yeah,
I'll be right back, but that was Josh.
I muted. Yeah, I muted myself because I thought it might have been me, and it wasn't. It just kept going.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was really confused.
Sorry about that, everyone. But no, there's something about creatives being able to delude themselves into thinking that they are a lot more responsible for everything else than they really are. But it's and there's nobody.
There's an old saying is never believe your own hype. Never believe your own hype. Creatives constantly to stay relevant, to stay valuable, they constantly have to be reinventing, reevaluating, trying new things, trying to do different things, trying to innovate who they are and what they do. You definitely saw a lot of that through the first 2 to 3 phases of the MCU. Phase 4, you don't see that as much. The impression I get from Phase 4 so far is that Feige has kind of stepped back and let his underlings do more of the driving without providing a heavy hand of leadership and direction. And the results kind of reflect that, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but that's how it comes across. And the way they're doing that is they're drawing too much from current day writers, current day creators, folks who are not steeped deeply in the comic book culture and have the same sort of reverence for the original stories that got the first 3 phases of the MCU to where it was. For example, I'm up to speed on She-Hulk, and I saw something in I think the episode that just came out was 4 or 5 that I hadn't caught before, and it surprised me. One of the executive producers on the She-Hulk Disney Plus show is Zeb Wells. And I was like, what? Zeb Wells? I mean, he's okay. I don't understand how he got tapped as an executive producer on that show when it's trying to draw material from 20, 30, 40 years ago. Why isn't like one of the creators who worked on She-Hulk at that time and is still around? Why aren't they an executive producer on that show? So I'm seeing
Brian Reed.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same kind of problems where they're sort of just taking people from current year Hollywood writing current year stuff and current year comics writing current year stuff, and they're saying, okay, so you drive it for going forward because we've already tapped the legacy stuff that made the MCU what it was. So now we're going to drive into the future. And it looks like it appears that Feige's stepping back from that, saying, well, okay, well, I did my big part. Now I'm just going to drive and see how things go going forward. but let's bring in all the current creators because we don't need to swing for the fences. We just need to keep things going, and it doesn't look great. It just doesn't look great. I mean, it's okay, but it's if you compare Phase 4 to Phase say 2, it's not even the same. It's not even close. Just in the amount of not necessarily interconnectedness, but just the hype and the energy and the excitement and the anticipation. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for anticipation from Phase 4, and I'm just not getting it. I'm just sort of getting a lot of treading water, a lot of unevenness, a lot of inconsistency, and it's just sort of okay. But I'm not getting the anticipation of build. I'm not getting momentum, and that's what I'm looking for, and I'm not seeing it. And part of that is because of the creatives are putting on the stuff. And my sense is that because Feige doesn't feel like he has as much to lose, because he's already basically done the best thing you could ever do, almost, if you want to look at it that way. And he's sort of taken a step back and say, well, okay, I'm going to be more high level, let other people handle it. I'm not going to be so involved. And you're just kind of getting mediocre results from it.
It's just treading water right now. That's all it is, treading water.
Yeah.
Josh, how's your audio? Can you talk now?
Oh, no.
Nope. Never mind. Josh used to work in Hollywood. I was going to ask him, is it just them hiring so many women that's ruining the MCU? But we'll never know. Josh can't even speak.
Why would you ask Josh about women?
Because he was in Hollywood. He knows women writers.
What is it still bad? Are we?
That's better.
I switched mics, so clearly it's something to do with my mic. We'll figure that out later. I'll sound a little tinny for a little bit. Two things. China, they only allow like 30 something films a year to come in. And they've given reasons for why they haven't allowed a number of films. First one, Black Widow, was because it was anti-communist. The next two, which I think were Shang-Chi and Eternals, they talked about, you had people behind the films openly speaking out against communism. That shut it down. Doctor Strange had like something in the background in one scene, like it was a newspaper article, but it was a newspaper that's anti-China. They're going to find whatever reason they want to push stuff out. As for executives, I think JPEG's as much involved in this as Feige is, because, we're talking about how these identity politics and this kind of like lifestyles is the push and the focus and how that's ruining things. But JPEG openly admitted that that's what he wants. Like, he wants to pursue that. And then we already know that Chapek's involving himself with the runtime of these films. He's involving himself with the marketing. And he's taking that creative freedom away from Feige. And, if we look at when Feige last had full creative freedom, it was pretty much Endgame. And I think before that, for the most part, we were happy with what he was delivering to the table. So I don't think this is all Feige. I think it's as much Chapek, if not more Chapek, than it is Feige. Chapek's
kids also gotten
into
there.
His kids got in there. One of the producers of Thor: Love and Thunder is like this super young female. And then I wish I could have remembered her name, but in interviews, it looks like she just blatantly does not fit. And it's not because she's a female. It's just like, one, where did you come from? And two, what you're talking about is not lining up with what these films are about. So it was just a weird situation. But I don't know. It's an interesting future that we've got ahead of us. So
almost feels like Feige spent Phase 4 doing a victory lap and wrecked.
And the other thing I'll say too is, and I think he's trying to fix this now, is when he was going into Phase 4, he gave interviews because people were like, like, what's Phase 4? What's Phase 4? What's Phase 4? And he was blatantly saying like, we're not going to do phases anymore. We're going to have different paths that we go down. And he specifically mentioned the cosmic, street level, and then like the mystic, like dark arts. And that was his approach. And I think we saw that it didn't work because of what Gabe was saying. Nothing feels focused. We're getting a film that's over here on this route. Then we're getting a film on this route. And then we're getting a film on this route. And none of it feels like it's connected. Now, if you go through and change up some of these Phase 4 films, they're still not great. But if you change the way you watch them, you get a little bit more of a momentum. And then you have situations like Doctor Strange 2, where whatever momentum was built up, they just completely crush in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So they've got to make better decisions.
Yeah, in a strange roundabout way, Phase 4 feels like the cinematic, the film version of Marvel is starting to mimic how the comic version of Marvel does things.
Yes.
Yep.
You have stories that are all over the place. Overlapping ideas don't really connect in the same way. Tonally inconsistent. Like some things are slice of life now in comics, and some things are horror. Some things they're all over the place, and nothing feels like it's moving toward anything. And there's a lot of treading water. So I think it was like somebody said something recently, a couple of days ago. It was the AIPT interview with was it Jordan White or somebody where they said where he was talking about where he's talking with the Marvel film folks, and they say, well, tell us what to do and how to do things. And they say, we want the comics to be 4 or 5 years ahead of what we're doing so that we can reproduce what you're doing today in the future. And I was like, well okay. But that seems to already be the case.
Fucking disaster.
Yeah, that seems to already be the case. Is the films are starting to reflect what the comics are doing, which is they're all over the place. Some things connect, other things don't. There's no overall feel of direction, and then you're letting these newer talent creators that sort of know what they're doing, but in a lot of cases they don't, and you're just all over the place.
Also, and this is going to piss people off, but let's not forget who actually mapped out the Infinity Saga, and that was Joss Whedon. You know,
what are you doing, Josh? You trying to make everyone upset?
No, I'm just saying he came in, and one of the main reasons they got him was to take these ensemble of characters and find a path for them that made sense, so that they could have individual films that work, but also teamwork films that work, and that you had these series of films lead to an event. That was why he was brought in. That's what he did. They mapped out all the way. At the time it was Infinity War Parts 1 and 2, but he mapped all the way out. And then when he left, the Russo brothers took over with Marcus and McFeely. And you had to, you can say what you want about Joss Whedon, but the guy can tell a story. Like, he can tell stories well. So you had him come in, and then you had 2 other sets of filmmakers that are extremely good filmmakers and or writers come in and finish telling a story. You don't have, in my opinion, you don't have people of that quality right now. And the one person you do would be Sam Raimi, but he's also Sam Raimi and a little bit off on his own.
So what you're saying is they should hire Warren Ellis.
They need to get someone. Yeah, sure, why not?
Honestly, they what they need to do is they need to have, they did it with like Fox did it with Craig Kyle and Chris Yost during the like the First Class era X-Men films until they stopped listening to them as well. And that's when we started getting like Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. But using people with understanding of the source material, because it's worked so far. Every single time it's worked, and every single you've got, at this point, you got almost 45 years of comic book movies, and outside of Batman and the first 3 Superman, and actually like 2.5 of the first 3 Superman movies, you have nothing but, and Blade. You have basically failures to really, really kind of get something over and make it a cultural touchstone until the MCU. And what separated the MCU from, even the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies or the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, what really separated it? Just dedication to the source material. You weren't embarrassed to be making a superhero movie, which is what most of the rest of them were. Now they still have all the same tropey.
Your wife walks in on you watching She-Hulk, and it's like that time Kane, or I guess it was Triple H in a Kane mask, was humping a mannequin that was supposed to be dead. Like,
yeah,
I guess I can't be a wrestling fan anymore.
Or the time Mae Young gave birth to a hand.
Yes.
It was like, this is so embarrassing. That was embarrassing to be a wrestling fan, in the same way that the Tim Story Fantastic Four movie, both of them, and Fan Four Stick and Blade Trinity and the Captain America movies from the fucking 70s and 80s made you embarrassed to be a superhero fan.
Don't forget Steel. That was rough.
Steel. Even the Brandon Routh Superman movie wasn't good by any stretch, and it was kind of embarrassing.
It was a good moment in the movie, and that was it.
He was Super Creeper. He was the Super Creeper watching spying on Lois and her family in the house.
Yep. Super voyeur. But so that was the first time that, and they did it by keeping people that were involved in comics, even tangentially involved in comics, as part of the driving creative force, and gave them a fucking veto.
Doc, look at this. Can you believe this?
That yes, exactly. I absolutely.
I do believe it. Actually,
I believe this. I
We
believe
grew up
this
loving Shaq Steele.
Do you also dig his rap record too? Shaq Diesel.
I think it's better.
Actually, it probably.
And playing
it wasn't
Shaq,
really-
Maybe-
don't forget Shaq.
Why haven't we
Shazam?
banned Jimmy yet? Why haven't we banned Jimmy yet?
Jimmy's technically sort of an employee now. He does some editing.
Well, he doesn't need to be in the chat.
Well, I just he gives us something to talk about, I guess.
he keeps it entertaining.
He informs us of of something that is wrong that we must commentate on to correct incorrect opinions.
Well, it's the younger generation. I mean, I'm sure you run into this yourself, Dylan. Obviously, being younger. Like when I was in the military, I was working with guys that were telling me that like the prequel trilogy was better than the original trilogy of Star Wars, and I was like, "Do your thing, I guess."
Yeah, it's just a lot of what people have nostalgia for. It's generally
Man,
how it goes.
so which one's your favorite? Is it Attack of the Clones?
No, Empire's my favorite.
Oh, come on.
Okay, there's hope for you. That's good. That's good.
You're not there's only one of those movies that's worth watching.
Yeah, Revenge of the
was it,
Sith is good. Revenge of the Sith is
yeah.
good. It peaks and valleys, but it's good.
Who thought you could get worse Star Wars than Attack of the Clones? Turns out you could.
Yeah, Disney found out.
Man. Did you know if you watch Attack of the Clones on DVD and you skip every scene with Anakin and Padme together, you just hit the skip button, the movie's not that bad.
Yeah. The Obi-Wan stuff's pretty good. Him being like a little private eye doing stuff. That was actually pretty interesting.
They made an action figure out of the guy selling the death sticks. Sleaze Bagano. I'll never forget that.
That's the guy from 2.5 Men, right?
He was the guy in the bar. He tried selling death sticks to.
Yeah, that's the John. I can't remember.
That was
the
John
actor's
Cryer?
name. Yes.
Wow.
No, that wasn't John Cryer. Was that John Cryer?
I'm pretty certain it was.
I thought that was the guy who played Mouse from the Matrix movie.
You might be right. They kind of look like each other. Now that you mention it, maybe that is Mouse from the Matrix. One way or the other, it's somebody involved in pop culture, I guess. We do have a lot of super chats here. Let's get to these. Cal Lyle says there's a photo of Brie Larson's booth at D23 and only 30 people showed up, and she's only got herself to blame like G4 cared. Well, there's probably only 30 people at the time. I'm sure there's Brie Larson fans out there, right?
Somewhere.
There's that one guy that saw the movie like 200 times. So there's that guy.
Yeah, they're all on Twitter.
Someone saw it 200 times.
You
Yeah,
did?
they
You
had a
don't
whole
know about
article
that?
About that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he look. Poor guy. He looks exactly how you think he'd look. I'll say that.
This is what I picture. 25 years old, but he's got the hairline of a 50-year-old, but he's got like curly hair, maybe some really not good glasses in, not an ounce of muscle on him.
Yeah,
He looks like Jimmy.
Glasses. Yeah.
He looks like
Okay.
Jimmy with glasses.
Jimmy, oh come on, Jimmy's packed full of muscle. That guy's his legs are tree trunks. What are you talking about?
Brie Larson is in a prison of her own making. I feel bad for her. I think a lot of the hate she gets is unwarranted, but at the same time, she kind of started it.
Yeah.
And she never corrected for it. Plus, you put her in a mediocre movie, and it's just compounding error upon error. I feel bad for her. I think she gets too much heat for things that aren't fair, but at the same time, she kind of started it. So,
and she leans into it now. So
she does lean. Do we know if she was charging for people to come to her booth? Because sometimes they charge like astronomical dollars for that, which is
like $150 just to get a selfie with them.
Oh no! Sometimes it's like $300, $400, $500 just to be able to get a selfie and a signature, and it's insane. Like people are already spending thousands of dollars to be here. Don't do that shit.
All right, Jimmy's defending Gabe. He says, "Don't interrupt Gabe. This is the only time everyone's called me Skitty."
That's not what I said, and I want to go on record as confirming that.
That's what you inferred, sir.
I infer nothing. I say exactly what I mean. Thank you.
Ideator says the MCU is starting to favor the CW in quality. If the thesis on Feige is true, he needs to be replaced. A reboot seems like the way out before their IPs, obviously go to crap. Jill, that's the problem. It does feel like CW quality. It's all crappy drama and stuff. Just bad performances left and right.
Yeah, nothing from Disney Plus has been good, and that's their big push lately. Has been Disney Plus, and like the best Disney Plus show is just it's okay. Like nothing has been up to the quality of like the first couple phases of the MCU. It's man, I'm still so mad about Moon Knight. That should have been so good, and it sucked.
I didn't even watch it. After watching Loki, I said I've had enough. These just aren't good.
Well, I'm pissed now after seeing the Werewolf by Night trailer because it looked amazing, and then I find out they say, "Oh, it's going to be a comedy." Fuck this! I am done.
I think it's more. I think it's more like a like a tongue-in-cheek kind of parody.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a comedy in the same way that people think it's a comedy.
I didn't hear that it was a comedy. I heard that it's campy because they're using like the old school filming techniques and that there's that certain level of camp, which you saw in the trailer.
Yes, it looks terrific. I love.
I thought the trailer was fantastic. Look, I would disagree with Dylan. I don't think everything from Disney Plus has been terrible. Like there are certain things that I've liked, and even from a filming perspective, I've enjoyed it. I don't think they've stuck the landing, and I think there are things that were in their control and out of their control that was from that. But I think they've learned that this 6-episode format does not work, and they need to step away.
They two things could tell a really bad movie that's like really bloated. In that
I mean, they're pretty much trying to deliver like a 6-7 hour film with a 2-hour film budget, and I think they're realizing that it's biting them in the ass from a technical standpoint. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like the two latest things for me. So She-Hulk is not great, and the Hulk. I'm not the Hulk, but Thor. It was just for me. Thor: Love and Thunder was by far the worst thing the MCU has put out. I thought it was absolute garbage, absolute trash. And I defend the MCU more than anyone on here, but to me, that was a tragedy. She-Hulk, it's one of those things. Like if we go back to right before Infinity War and Endgame, the one thing everyone was saying was do something different, do something different, do something different. Now they've started doing something different. And you can make the argument that it still could have been done better, but different. But people are upset that it's different. So I think we kind of have to decide, do we want something different or do we want something that's true to like a typical superhero story? And then yes, it's going to feel a little tired after a while, but we got something different.
I think they want something different. Like when we got Captain America Winter Soldier, that felt different than any movie in the MCU. It was like a weird political thriller.
Agreed.
It was absolutely fantastic. Or if you saw Ant-Man the first time, it was like a heist movie. And it was different. It just had a different feel to it. Nothing has a different feel anymore.
Yeah, but also Ant-Man got reamed for having one of the worst third acts at that time and like completely abandoning, which is the same thing that people are complaining about with WandaVision. WandaVision was completely different. And then for its final act, for the end, the conclusion was your stereotypical MCU. I think there's a lot of recency bias. And I think if we look at things back over time in a few years, we're going to feel different. Because I think there's a lot of negative stuff from the earlier phases that we tend to forget because we haven't watched it in a while.
I don't like Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3. Thor 2 was bad.
But that's my point. Like there's plenty of bad that was early on and even in the middle of the MCU that some of these later things, like when you compare them, they're not too different aside from She-Hulk and Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, the Marvel phases needed a little time to work themselves out and bake in fully. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of love for the first Thor movie. It was okay, but it wasn't.
I love that movie. I think that thing is great.
It was okay. But it wasn't like this big monumental
the best
phase.
Thor movie.
It was the beginning of the greatest thing ever. It needed Thor needed to settle in, but then they went too far the other way. Now Thor's just a joke in his own movie. The Disney Plus stuff is uneven. Now, if you look at She-Hulk, for example, and you compare it to say Stargirl, even though one is a CW show and the other one is Disney Plus, Stargirl is a far superior show almost on every level, not just the writing, but also special effects and acting and everything else. But so you have to wonder, is that really a question of budget or is it a question of people just kind of throwing things out there and seeing what works?
Geoff Johns is one of the big guys in charge of Stargirl. He created the character and he knows the comic book universe. So it makes sense that you have somebody associated with the creation, everything would know how to put the character into another medium. You can tell most of the people that are associated with these new projects, there's like no love for any of these things.
Yeah, the comment I keep hearing over and over again is they went for like an Ally McBeal kind of feel for She-Hulk. I've seen Ally McBeal and I watched it from beginning to all the way to the end. I don't get that feel at all. I don't.
Well-
The legal stuff is just poorly handled. The jokes don't land. The ensemble cast is not fleshed out at all. You don't get that feel. And now this is like,
It's twerking though. It's kind of like the dancing baby of She-Hulk.
This is what's his name? Who did Al McBeal? Was David? He's married to Michelle Pfeiffer. Whatever.
David E.
name is.
Kelly.
Yeah, David E. Kelly. Yeah, I mean, you have to have the solid creative talent behind that show to pull it off.
Right.
You have to build out the characters. You have to have the supporting cast. When you put them in situations like a legal drama, and it's a dramedy. Ally McBeal is not full on comedy. It's a dramedy because there's a little bit of sentiment, there's a little bit of emotion, there's a little bit of heart, and there's comedy and quirkiness and all this other stuff. You don't have any of that in She-Hulk because it's totally all over the place. None of the side characters are built out. The legal stuff, when you get into it, is just dumb.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but even I can tell some of the legal stuff is just dumb, and it doesn't work. So. And that's say it is what it is, but it's just not there.
That's what I was going to comment on too, because She-Hulk it went through so many extensive rewrites and reshoots before they started airing it, and it was because it was meant to be a dramedy. It was meant to have this whole courtroom aspect there. That when they started filming it and doing it, they realized it sucks. So keep in mind that what we're getting, they feel is better than what they had before. And what blows my mind is they never got a courtroom writer, someone that does courtroom dramas, to come in and help write the series. They just have their comedy writers, like Simming from Rick and Morty. And it's like
Cody Ziegler.
Yeah, my thing is like, why, if you realize that was your problem, why didn't you go find someone from just a decent courtroom drama TV show? Because there's a shit ton of them out there, past and present.
Get Judge Judy, man.
Just to come in and write some compelling courtroom stuff, because they try to do things that it's not a comedy and it just doesn't land. Like so much of She-Hulk doesn't land. There are moments that are like, all right, that was cute, or that was okay, I chuckled, but other than that, it's all over the place.
Yeah,
we're gonna move on.
Sorry,
we need to move on to the next one. We do have Lane Kramer saying Harley season 3. Bruce goes to jail. Catwoman steals Martha's pearls. Harley joins the Bat family and calls them a female product. Perfect ending.
She calls him a tampon.
Barely.
I disavow that show and everybody associated with it.
You're not a fan of Harley Quinn, the animated series?
Nope.
You seem like a Harley kind of guy. Are you letting the girls watch it? I know you got daughters.
No, I would not let my daughter watch that show. She is way too young to watch that show, and even if she was old enough, I still wouldn't let her watch that show. Not in my house.
There's a lot of stuff from like Disney that I won't even let my kids touch anymore. It's really strange.
My affection for Harley stems from Batman the Animated Series, and that has been the best incarnation, period, hands down, and they have never been able to reproduce that either in comics, animation, or anywhere else.
Ideator comes back and says the price tag for the OG characters returning would be astronomical and would probably be handled poorly. Bought Destiny Horizons. Thanks, Wes. Well, thank you so much for supporting the sponsor. That is absolutely amazing. Frank is going to be very happy about that, and you're going to love that comic book. And it is going to cost a lot of money to get their fans back, Josh. Like once they have to bring Robert Downey Jr. and all these guys back that they've removed just to get people into theaters like they did with Spider-Man No Way Home, it's going to be they're going to have to cut a check.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they're going to see the return on that when they do it, though, and that's something Feige talked about, or the insider talked about Feige saying, and I don't disagree with Feige on that point of like, it's just common sense to know that these characters that aren't as higher tier and these actors that aren't as established aren't going to pull in the box office as these people like we were seeing with Iron Man and Captain America and the Avengers. So it makes sense. But at the same time, I think he was overconfident in what they could deliver, and we're seeing that didn't happen. But yeah, pay the bucks, get them back in. It happened with Spider-Man. It can happen here. So
Callum says She-Hulk is dead, and I think they'll cut Daredevil board again because I can't trust Feige unless he moves on from Brie Larson. I don't know, Gabe. You're enjoying She-Hulk more than most people I know.
No, again, I choose my words, and I never said that.
He said it wasn't bad.
There are some parts that are okay. There are a lot of parts that are terrible.
Yeah.
We were at that. Let's see, there are 9. I think there's 9 episodes, and we just finished 5, so we're past the halfway mark. And there's no arc from what I can tell. There's a hint of maybe something. It's not great. It's definitely not going to be one of the top Disney Plus shows. If you're talking Disney Plus, the thing that gets me excited right now is Werewolf by Night, because I like werewolves. I'm a horror guy, and they're going back to the Jack Russell version of Werewolf by Night, not this stupid Jake thing that Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas did about a year or two ago. So I'm glad they didn't go that direction. And then The Mandalorian. So
you don't trust Daredevil?
I specifically got Netflix years ago when I heard Daredevil was coming on, and that show was fabulous. I love that show a lot. I hate to use it. I never use the word fabulous. Okay.
Hey girl, hey.
Oh boy, don't do that to me.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I that show was great. D'Onofrio's version of Kingpin was great. Now, when they say they're not continuing that show, that it's going to be its own thing, that's cause for concern. I'm pausing on that one because I'm not sure, and they're changing the costume and doing some other things. Now, if they can keep up that quality, great. If they can't, then shame on Feige, because it was already laid out. It was handed to him on a silver platter. All he had to do was keep going with what was already established. And if they screwed up, that's a shame on him.
General Ballsack, this was for you, Doc. What about that badass Thunderbolts lineup? I was not impressed, Doc. So you've got Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, who's not a villain anymore. He's going to be on the team. Elaine is going to be the leader. You've got, what was her name? Storm or whatever. I think, not Storm.
Ghost.
It was Shadow? Ghost. There we go. Random, vague name. What do you think, Doc? Is that the Thunderbolts? It looks terrible. Is Doc gone? My goodness.
I
ghosted.
will make two comments on this. So in an interview somewhere, Feige said there's more cast to be revealed. So thank God, because these characters are all way too similar to one another. And I know you said Ghost doesn't excite you, but I'm looking at it from a visual standpoint, and Ghost is the only character so far that will add something that's visually different than everybody else. So I say bring Ghost on. But other than that,
Red Guardian? Red Guardian. You got David Harbour.
Yeah, but he's just going to be brute strength, kind of like Bucky, and then you've got three different
agent.
You've got three different Captain Americas there, and you could even say a pseudo Captain America if you want to go like Black Widow's get. Yeah, it's a lot of similarities. Great, good actors, sure, great. We'll see, but they need to diversify that cast, and not in the typical Disney diversity way.
Where's Zemo?
Yes.
Why isn't
that's
Zemo
what
Neil in the comments just said Citizen V got Shaft. Yeah, where is Zemo as Citizen V in this series? That is BS. I don't get it.
I would have expected Zemo to be on the team because he's known for being I think he founded the first version of the team, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Why Abomination? Why isn't Abomination on the team?
So I suspect that
expensive.
I expect Feige made the comment there's still more team members to come, and the reason he hasn't said that is because it would potentially give away She-Hulk stuff, which, I mean, do we really care? No, just let us know he's in that.
But his part in the She-Hulk stuff is already done.
No, there's still more to come. Because they teased more of him in that mid-season trailer that they released. But I would say Zemo, Abomination, and Songbird, get those three in there, and you'll feel a little more set with a true Thunderbolts vibe.
Miss Maria says, my 6-year-old dad watched She-Hulk and liked it. There you go, Gabe. You're not alone.
No, I commend you for talking about your dad, and I wish him the best in his rest home.
My goodness.
I apologize. That's unkind. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be unkind, but at the same time, look, this is the difficulty of the people like us, like myself, Josh, and Dylan, everybody else, is you have to delineate between liking something and saying that something is good. Yeah. Like is it written well? Is it produced well? Is it filmed well? All these other things. I love. There's plenty of horrible stuff that I like. I like
Ready to Rumble is amazing.
I love bad 70s horror movies. I love bad 70s horror movies. But I have the wherewithal to pull back and say I love them, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's an Oscar-winning performance. It's not by any stretch. And what I see is too many people conflate liking something with saying something is good.
Yep.
These are two different things.
Gabe, it doesn't matter what you say. I'm going to twist your words, and I'm going to use it against you to have a good laugh. I'm a middle child. That's what I do.
You can like something and recognize it's not good. These are two different things.
Yes.
And I can understand you didn't say it was good, and I can still try and twist it around and say that you like She-Hulk.
And I will be here to correct you. That's fine. I support your right to be wrong.
Callum says, what I've heard, Kevin Feige is interfering with Sam Raimi, and he keeps hiring D-girls like Jessica Gao to screw She-Hulk into a self-insert.
I'm going to say bullshit. And if you want to know why, go watch the commentary for, if you have 2 hours to suffer, go watch the commentary for that film. Most of what people talked about were bad ideas or that were stupid, or Michael Waldron and Sam Raimi, and they stroke each other's, I don't know if we can say the D word here, the entire commentary about half this stuff and how brilliant it was when it was god-awful.
Their docs?
Yes, their doc 2.0. Because so many of the things that were terrible about that movie, that cold open, that was Waldron and Raimi decision. Cutting the opening scene with Scarlet Witch, Waldron and Raimi decision. Having Wanda be a villain from the beginning instead of letting her go her course throughout the movie and then become the villain, Raimi Waldron decision. Freaking Zombie Strange for the third act delivering inspirational speech, Waldron and Raimi. All the cool stuff that we liked, like having Scarlet Witch in the mirror world, you had to have a freaking a stunt coordinator and a visual effects supervisor come in and say, you should probably include something like this.
There you go, Callum. You're wrong, son. You heard wrong. Josh set you straight. It is Josh, this is for you. She-Hulk is BS. Okay, it's total shit. They're chasing that James Gunn humor too much in the success of playing Black Panther.
Again, I'm gonna go with what Gabe
Guardians of the Galaxy's humor killed the MCU. It's all toddler humor now because of that movie.
No, I think James Gunn humor I can kind of get behind. For Guardians of the Galaxy, it works. That makes sense. Taika Waititi's humor, I think, is where you kind of lose it. I love What We Do in the Shadows. I love that show, but that's a very specific type of humor. It's kind of raunchy. It's irreverent. Yeah, it's all that stuff. For Thor, I think he marginally pulled it off with Ragnarok because it was sort of a different tone and it kind of got something fresh that people hadn't seen before. But then he went way overboard with Love and Thunder. And it's like, no, that's not it. You made Thor a joke. That's the wrong direction. You can add humor. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you make the main character the punchline of everybody else's joke, that's where you run into problems.
Yeah, even the Guardians felt like a joke, more so than what James Gunn does in Thor: Love and Thunder.
You made him the comic relief in Guardians, and Endgame and everything else. This is Thor you're talking about. That's not the direction you want to go. Now, to be, Hemsworth's comedic timing is fantastic.
Yes.
He has great comedic timing. So I mean, it suits his strength, but that was Taika Waititi's humor is just not the right fit for the MCU going forward.
Agreed completely. We've got the other Josh supporting the channel. Hail, comic friends! I recommend backing Irene's new project on Indiegogo, Fiendish Chapter 2. If you missed Chapter 1, it's also available. Okay. Thank you very much for shouting that one out. Obviously, she's had a very successful campaign for the first one. I imagine a lot of people are very excited for the second one, other than Heather Ontos, who apparently does not like reading. Dylan Lindsay, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Hello, all. Great show so far. Infinity War is the best Thor we have seen. At least the first two Thor movies were serious. The last two were comedy films with action sprinkled in. Oh, yeah, smash that like button. Oh, my goodness. Do we have any likes on the video yet? We might be up to like 250. Or not 250, like 150. Yeah, we're at 157. Hopefully we can hit 200 by the end of this show. Definitely give us a thumbs up if you can. Thank you so much to Dylan Lindsay. Is that the best version we've gotten of Thor? Like when he almost kills Thanos and he says he should have gone for the head. That's a pretty damn good moment.
It's by far the best on-screen Thor we've gotten for the MCU. The arc he goes through in that movie is great. Like where he starts and how broken he is to actually like building his new weapon and then coming back. When he appears in Wakanda, it's amazing. Like they're losing that battle. Everyone's getting their asses kicked. And then Thor finally shows up and it's awesome. Yeah, by far the best. But then Endgame, he's just fat and depressed. And so it's like, and silly. So, but Infinity War, Infinity War.
I like Thor in the first movie, though. I thought that was like a good fish out of water thing that he was doing. When he finishes his beard, he like throws it on the ground.
I agree too. I think in the minority with you. I think Thor 1's a good movie. I like it, but I think Infinity War is the best. Like we've gotten Thor. Like the arc he goes through in that is great, but then it's all undone in the Taika Waititi movies because he's back to just being a dumb idiot.
Yeah, that moment you're talking about, Wes, was actually unscripted, and Hemsworth just did it on his own, smashing his cup and yelling another.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess he knew what he was doing, but yeah, I like Thor so much. Hemsworth is a real star. I don't know how they've veered so far off course. I don't even want to see Love and Thunder. I refuse to see MCU movies now.
Dude,
it was never the case.
Quality-wise, it reminds me of SNL, and that is not a compliment.
Hey,
I had acting, writing.
Yeah, you like screaming goats?
I had never seen Sean pissed off at a Marvel film before, and when he was next to me, he was pissed off. I'm like, thank God he's seen the light. This movie sucks.
Unless something really special is showing up I wait for it to come out in Disney Plus. I don't bother with the scheduling and paying the ticket price and everything else. It's not worth it. Just wait till it comes out in Disney Plus, which I've already paid for, and then just do it there.
Absolutely. Callum Lyle says it's just going to be all female moving forward, and Feige clearly hates himself for being white and male. I don't know if he hates himself for that, but I think he definitely is pushing for more representation moving forward. I don't think it's going to be all female, obviously not, but it's definitely a heavy emphasis on the female characters, Dylan. It clearly is.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can see that with what they're going for, but I don't think he hates himself. I think he just hates his hairline.
That's why you wear the hat.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody buy him some Rogaine, and we'll get back to good movies.
Yeah,
again.
He's got. I don't need Rogaine money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'd rather he wear the hat than follow the example of the Russo brothers with those terrible toupees.
Or the LeBron James, where you just try to pretend that it's not there.
And he just draws it in a different way
just
every
push
month.
the sweatband back as far as you can. Every year it went further and further back.
Yeah, that's no way to go. Well, speaking of sponsor the channel, we do have Frank Zanka in the house. He says, hey, guys, thanks for the shout out. The problem with She-Hulk is that it's not a superhero show. Titania is a dramatic actress and no structure.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we talked a lot about She-Hulk, but if you look at it structurally, it's very much structured like a actual sitcom, like a situation comedy. And I personally, I don't watch sitcoms. They're not my thing. But it is structured like that. But there is, within that, it's a total mess. And if you go to some of the behind-the-scenes interviews, like they are chopping this sucker up in the editing room. Their stuff. So what was our first episode? A majority of that was actually episode 8. Like it's getting shifted and pulled every which way. Like you're not going to have a good product. And Tatiana Maslany deserves way better than what she's getting.
Yeah, I mean she's a great actor. I like her. Mm-hmm. I like her. I think she was the right choice for that role.
Agreed. The
problem is the way the show is being produced. The CGI is horrible. She-Hulk's CGI when she's like walking around the office is horrible. I mean, this is like PS1, PS2 level graphics. Yeah. The mouth sync doesn't line up all the way. Yeah, and the editing, the first thing you really saw for her to Hulk out and get into a big fight with Titania in that first episode, that was the worst edited action scene I think I've ever seen in my life. It was truly terrible. So
worse than Black Panther in South Korea? Because that was awful.
No, it was worse. It was worse. It didn't even make physical sense.
No.
So I think she's a good get for an MCU role, but the technical execution of everything around her is just where it's completely failing right now.
I definitely want to say thank you once again to Frank Zanka and Destiny Horizons for sponsoring today's live stream. Really appreciate that. I do want to tell you about their featured product right now, Destiny Aurora, a science fiction graphic novel. You can also pre-order The Lords of LA, his 48-page rated R graphic novel that was successfully funded recently on Kickstarter. Support today is sponsored by visiting www.destinyaurora.net. And for the people that may have missed this earlier, we got a little show for you. All tired of waiting for Marvel and DC Comics to get their acts together. It's important we all come together and support independent comic book creators like award-winning screenwriter Frank Zanka and his graphic novel Destiny Aurora. 150 pages of beautifully illustrated, action-packed sci-fi adventure. No identity politics, no subverting expectations, no hidden agendas. Just good old-fashioned heroic storytelling. The Destiny Aurora universe includes not only the 150-page graphic novel, but an additional 4 novels, a board game, and an RPG. There's an entire new universe waiting to be discovered. Visit www.destinyaurora.net today and support great comic books created with you in mind, real comic book readers. If you are looking for something better than what Marvel and DC are putting out right now as far as comic books, definitely visit destinyaurora.net today. And if you buy it during the stream and you let us know in the comment section, we will give you a shout out. Definitely thank you so much to Ideator for supporting the sponsor of the channel. I'd really appreciate that one. And thank you very much to Frank as well and Destiny Horizons. There we go. We got one final super chat to get through. Callum Lyle, screw Octos. Anyway, Secret Invasion. I got Winter Soldier vibes, and Emilia Clarke looks good as Goth Girl, and it's possible she could be Queen Virenki.
I that's the show I'm looking forward to most from the MCU, but we'll see.
I kind of want Armor Wars.
You're probably going to get a lot of Riri Williams in that, but okay.
I just want Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
Hey, Don Cheadle's Don Cheadle's in this. So
yeah, and he's in it. I don't know about Ironheart. We'll find out from the Black Panther movie. I don't know the timing, which comes out first, so we'll figure that out. I mean, the thing that bothers me about Secret Invasion is not anything related to that show. It's they really lean into the Skrulls in Captain Marvel. That's where you get your first big taste of the Skrulls and their introduction into the MCU, and they did not handle the Skrulls well in that Captain Marvel movie. The whole point of the Skrulls, I'm sort of, depending on how you interpreted it, it was meant to be, depending on who you ask, an allegory for the Red Scare of the 50s. It's like your neighbor could be your enemy and you not know it. It's that whole undercurrent of paranoia about recognizing that the enemy is right there behind you, working next to you or right in front of you, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And they play on that paranoia to try and build out a whole invasion of this hidden enemy. Now, they use that concept in, I think it was Civil War, where, it was Hydra. Hydra took that place. Everybody who they thought were the good guys were really the bad guys, and they were just hiding in plain sight. So they already used that concept. They didn't want to reproduce it. So then when they got to the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, they made it an allegory for immigration. And how we're, not providing asylum for people who need it, and then turned into kind of this whole thing where they completely subverted the value of what the Skrulls bring to the Marvel universe, and it just wasn't as good. So even though I'm looking forward to Secret Invasion, I'm sort of cooled a little bit on it because of how poorly they handled the introduction in the first place.
Thank you very much to Cal Lyle and everyone for supporting the channel. Definitely go out there and support the sponsor. We've also got another great thing to talk about. Thankfully, Josh is back. We got the return of Alfred finally to Batman this week in Batman versus Robin #1. Mark Waid, what'd you think about this?
So I have to shamefully admit that I haven't read the issue yet because I didn't get my comics until yesterday afternoon. Look, Alfred needs to come back. At this point, I don't care how they do it. Just do it, please. Just get him back. So if he's back, great. But I'm worried that he's not actually back, and that we probably won't get him back until we reboot. But we'll see.
Dylan, you read it, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about the return of Alfred? Is Josh going to be happy when he picks that bad boy up?
Assuming it was a nice little moment. Assuming he's actually back and it's not like, well, this is demon magic or whatever, and so Alfred's not actually back and they save it for the reboot. Or whatever. It was a nice moment though. I'm happy he's back, assuming he actually is. But yeah, that was one of the dumbest things Tom King did with how he killed him off. It didn't even feel like an impactful moment when it happened. It was like, well, they did that, and now Alfred's just gone. It was more mad at how they did it than anything. So I'm happy that he's back, and hopefully he actually stays. It's not a gotcha moment.
What do you think? Is it a gotcha moment there, Gabe?
I have read it. I did review it. For anybody who hasn't read it, he comes back, but they don't explain how, and he's not even sure how.
Kind of maybe what's causing it,
and they tie his resurrection, we'll call it, in quotes, resurrection, to whatever's going on with Damien and his supposed possession by the demon Neza. So that whole thing is interconnected, coming out of World's Finest. Is it the real Alfred? Is it temporary Alfred? Is it, imaginary Alfred? We don't know. We don't know. So is he back for good? We don't know. Is his return linked to some kind of nefarious thing behind the scenes where it's meant to mess with Batman? Don't know. So I'm hopeful, and there was a lot of good sort of ugly man tears, bro hug kind of moments coming out of that comic that are make you feel good about his return. And it was sort of that same vibe you get when Wally and Barry hug coming out of Rebirth. When Wally gets pulled out of limbo and they're hugging like I'm home again, you get a little bit of that vibe and that feel. But whether or not it sticks remains to be seen. So we'll see.
What was the response of Comics Elite, Drew?
Oh, we all thoroughly enjoyed it. When we talked to Mark about this, we told him we enjoyed it. We said it's great seeing Alfred back. And then Mark said, "Is it really? Is it a good thing he's back?" And kind of jokingly saying it's like, okay, there's something more to Alfred being back. Maybe he's not. Maybe this is probably magic based, but we'll see. There's something more to it. But yeah, we truly enjoyed it. And the page he told me that he liked doing the most was the Zatanna page, because you see what happens to her in the book. It's pretty shocking. Mm-hmm. And yeah,
I wasn't a fan of that page. Thought it was gross, but there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It's a good twist. I didn't see that coming. But I enjoyed it. We enjoyed it at the shop.
It's totally Clayface.
Well, that was magic now.
No,
that would suck, because for Tom King's Batman, it was supposed to be Clayface that was quote unquote killed, but not killed, because Clayface was supposed to be Alfred, and then you had your editors be like, "No, we're killing Alfred." So.
I mean, it seemed like when it first happened that it was supposed to be Psycho Pirate putting that image in Damian's mind to freak him out.
Well, they had the whole setup. So this has come out in interviews, but they had the whole setup with them using Clayface and having Clayface on the inside, quote unquote.
It's true that is revealed afterwards.
Yeah, but that was not supposed to be Alfred, and he was not supposed to be killed. And then editors came back and said, "No, we're moving forward with this." So.
Not a good idea.
No. There's plenty that Tom King has done wrong, but we'll forgive him for that, because that was not him.
Well, that kind of gets to the heart of the problem, Dylan, is that it's the editors that are the worst. They're the ones that are driving all this stuff. From what I understand it, most of the stories we're reading, like the Shadows of the Bat story from Mariko Tamaki, wasn't her pitch. The editors made her do it.
That's so dumb. That is so stupid. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to just bring on a new writer and then hand them a story they're not even interested in. That's never going to work out well.
Well, they've done that in the past. I talked to Chuck Dixon. He's like, yeah, we would do these meetings, and the group editors would get out and they would map out the next 2 years and whatever, and big things that were going to happen. And then they would bring in the writers and say, this is the direction we're going. And then you kind of filled in the blanks. They didn't tell you the story to write. They just told you where you needed to be at the end.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. But now, I don't know. It's weird to see editors be more power hungry now when they're less talented.
And they're paid so little.
Yeah, it's odd.
I mean, I want Alfred back.
Yeah.
That's just me. I'm one voice out of dozens. People buying DC comics. I want Alfred back, but if you're gonna start doing bait and switches and red herrings for the next year and a half, then I'd rather you just keep it permanent and just leave it at that. Better than being yanked this way and that and pull the rug out. Oh, it's really not Alfred, and it is Alfred, and it's really not Alfred. If you're gonna do that over and over again, I'd just rather you not. We've had too much of that. There's no need for it.
Couldn't agree more. We also had a big reveal for Superman, Josh. Superman came out as gay again this week. What? Finally, letting the entire universe know that he's gay. What do you think about that?
It's not Superman. It's Superboy. It's not Superman.
It's John Kent. I won't call him Superman. John Kent came out as gay again, Josh.
I mean, I think they just needed to make sure that people knew, because I think too many people reading comics
they were ambiguous.
Weren't aware that John Kent was a big mo. We all drink a little too much. We all smooch, another man from time to time. It just happens. So they wanted to make sure that They just wanted to make sure that people knew it wasn't a drunken situation. That's sarcasm.
How many times can one character come out as being part of the LGBTQ tribe in 1 year, Josh?
That's what DC's trying to find out.
Yeah, look, I mean, let's look at real people. Like, not to, well, yeah, no, we're gonna throw shade, but you had even DC's publicists come out and be like, "I identify as they them," and then like 2 weeks later, it was like, "It's he," and I'm just like, whatever. I mean, like, you got the whole Grant Morrison ordeal. Like, how many times you look at freaking what's the singer that's like, I'm
Demi Lovato.
Yeah.
like, I mean, and these are people that, like, you know, these writers probably look up to. So am I shocked? No. Find better role models. Find better real life heroes than these psychos.
Well,
You know what's funny?
I was going to say, remember, Bobby Drake is running around coming out like every 3 weeks now to different people. And he came out to the X-Men. He came out to his family. He came out to some of the villains. He came out to Krakoa. Now he came out to Earth. So he needs to come out to the Shi'ar next. Until they run out of alien races, he's got somebody
to come out of the mirror universe.
Yep, and John Kent, he can wait until wait 3 years for.
He still hasn't told Crypto, Jock. That's like going to be a big issue.
I know. But he just waits like 3 years until the children born today are alive, so he can come out to them. He can do this endlessly.
You know, it's interesting because if you go back like 5 to 10 years, one of the big conversations within the gay community was we shouldn't have to come out. Like, it shouldn't be something that we have to do. And now it's flipped so much that it's like, no, we have to come out to every single person every chance we get. And I'm like, fuck off.
Go away.
Yeah.
What's funny to me is this particular story point about making it a big deal that he comes out to the public. Was already done recently within the last couple of years when they had that awful Batwoman show on the CW. There was an episode where it turned into a news cycle thing for on the typical CBR and everybody else, because Batwoman wasn't just an out character on the show. She came out publicly on the show to a news crew or something like that. And it turned into a big deal for Bleeding Cool and everybody else to kind of say Batwoman is out publicly rather than she's just out. She's out publicly. So they've already done this thing to death already, in my opinion, but they've already also used that specific plot point about having the character come out to the public. Somehow that's an important thing. Josh, you can.
You know what the problem, Josh, is
that really a big deal?
The information is known to the readers, Josh.
Yeah.
So unless when he comes out to the world, it impacts the story and maybe people shut him and they try to kick him out, or maybe someone tries to kill his boyfriend or something like that, you're just giving the information to the reader again for an affirming moment.
Yeah, it's weird. So if you didn't have the Pride issue and all these instances of him being openly gay in public already, I think this could potentially be a good story. Back when that Pride issue came out, I actually did a stream with Max, MVP Max, and I made the comment that if I were going to take this story and try to do something, I would have approached it from, I can't be myself in public. I cannot show the side of me because it could tarnish what Superman stands for, and kind of have him learn okay, there potentially is a right or wrong way to go about this. And then maybe you would have had an okay story that would have resonated with people. But it's kind of what you're saying, Wes. You've got him. He's flamboyantly gay. He's out. He's open. He's kissing his boyfriend in public. He's wearing his Pride rainbow flag while holding his boyfriend's hand at a Pride parade. It's out. People know. So the fact that they're doing this now makes no sense. Now, if you go back to the early 2000s, it was a very real thing that you had studios and everything else telling people, no, you can't come out because it's gonna ruin your reputation. And I think you had a valid comment or valid argument back then to do that, but that's not the case now. We live in a different world. I don't understand this need to tell the public.
I think it's just for a headline. It's the only thing that they can do to get John Kent into the news cycle again.
It's virtue signaling, give yourself a pat on the back, and ultimately it means nothing. It means nothing. Nobody cares anymore. They would much rather you just not talk about it than have to do a dog and pony show and let's pull the circus together for this. enough people have moved past the point of being like, oh my God, you're gay. No, you can't do A, B, and C, to like, oh, okay, well, it's another gay person, whatever. And they move on.
It's like, do you want to meet my cousin? Gay too?
Yeah.
Are you single?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not that big a deal anymore, but he keeps coming out. Like I said, when he comes out to crypto, that's going to be the big one. That's what a little teardrop. And then he'll have to go into the bottled city of Candor, Josh, and let them know.
You know what? If that actually happened, I would actually buy that book because that'd be fucking hilarious. Crypto with one tear and then be like, I need a moment, and goes to Candor.
It's like, I never knew you.
Just that's what the entire John Kent series should be about. Just him going to random places, announcing he's gay and leaving.
That's kind of what it is. That's what we're talking about, Josh.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Doc. It's 15 issues to get to this one issue. They told one story, and mostly it's him, coming out to his mom and holding his boyfriend's hand for the first time, and meeting his mom.
Like, don't even pretend to do superhero stuff anymore. Just fuck it. Just have them own. That's the only thing they do. He just walks through, and the most interesting plot point would be, how does he get to the next random place that he's going to come out?
So obviously, Dylan, you're a huge Superman fan. Are you even still reading this?
I haven't been reading this since like the second issue. I dropped it so fast.
The second issue was terrible. It was really bad.
After that, I dropped it when like the whole speech happened that he gave to Clark, being like, "You need to do more." I was just like, yeah, I'm done. I dropped it. It's horrible. The thing that this makes me think about, though, with him coming out, so this is obviously public information for everyone. He went to the Legion of Superheroes. They're in the future. They knew this. What do you think Saturn Girl was thinking when they were making out? Like, this dude's gay. He just
I turned him.
Like, what was she thinking during that?
Storyline?
Like, she knows that, but then also that leaves it to where he's got to go to the future and tell them now, even though they already know because they're in the future. But that's
he's
another
got to go tell Saturn Girl and apologize.
It's the coming out paradox.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be their big story arc of the paradox of him telling the Legion of Superheroes that he's gay in the future, but they already know he's gay, but he needs to go and tell them he's gay in order for them to know that he's gay.
And then he turns it on Saturn Girl and blames her, Josh. It's like, if you knew I was gay, why would you make out with me?
Yeah, and then he has to go to the next extreme, and we get the drag paradox.
Oh, this is a whole saga. The omnibus is going to be insane.
I loved Gabe's like deep breath of like, please shut up, because these idiots writing these books are actually going to think that's a good idea.
Well, he's already on a whiteboard.
But he's already got a rainbow cape, so he's halfway there.
Yeah.
The funniest thing about all this, though, is like the people that this is sort of pandering for, they hate it too. Like the comic book Twitter gays, I see them all the time being like, Tom Taylor sucks and is not doing this correctly. What is he doing? We don't like this. But he keeps like, he'll tweet about it like he's their savior and he's like doing so good for their representation. And then just the replies and quote tweets are all just like, what is this guy? Like, what is he on? That's the funniest thing about all this is they don't
I'm told there's like a pirate site that puts up a bunch of like LGBTQ kind of coming about stories, comic books and stuff, and it's up there. And if you go and look in the comments, it's everyone talking about what a shitty comic book Superman Son of Kal-El is.
Yeah, it deservedly so.
It doesn't even hit
bad.
The audience. It's tried to hit.
No.
Yeah, so it's like, who is this even for?
It's for Tom Taylor's virtue signal. That's it.
So, Wes, what you're saying is in your free time, you go to gay pirate websites.
No. In my free time, I read the viewer comments, and that was one of the comments.
So you're reading comments on gay pirate websites. Okay.
I'm reading comments on my videos referencing this thing's happening. But I will tell you this: if I can find out the name of the website, I will go check it out, and if I can make a video and make fun of it, I'll do it.
So you're actively asking for information to visit gay pirate websites.
For comic book stuff, yes. For the channel,
chat, I want you to DM. Chat, I want you to DM Wes all the gay pirate website links that you can find.
Wasn't it just 2 weeks ago that Wes was talking about getting man panties? I mean,
fruit of a lady boy.
Now we understand where your targeted advertisement's coming from.
Whatever, man. Whatever. Let's move on from this one. This topic has gone in a weird direction.
I do want to say all day.
Whatever. I do want to say we do have a superstar in our midst. Beach Boys Comics just picked up Destiny Aurora graphic novel with the bonus autograph. Can't wait to check it out. You, sir, are a superstar. And for $20, you get a 150-page graphic novel autographed by the creator. Absolutely perfect deal that you can get there. And if you don't like physical, if you like to read digital like our good friend Josh here, you can get the PDF as well for a much cheaper price. Unlike DC and Marvel, who charge you the exact same price for the digital series as well as the physical series. So definitely check that one out. Beach Boys Comics as well as Ideator are absolute superstars. Thank you so much for supporting the channel sponsor as well. Dylan Lindsay, Dawn of DC. Do you think they will make John a kid again? Originally, I thought it was too soon, but if they are resetting the universe already, it might be worse than we thought. Something has to be done.
No.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. They're not going to go back on everything that Tom Taylor's done with him. It's too far. They're not going to just undo all that and bring back to be a kid. As much as I'd love for that to happen, there's no way. They're not going to do it.
If they're not changing the editors and they're not changing the creative teams, you're not going to see any substantive change.
Yep.
So I can't see something that big happening without a different set of people in place.
Man, there's a lot of stuff about me going commando on my man paintings.
Yeah.
Jeez, you guys really attached onto that one. That should have been a topic, I guess. So there's no way in hell they're going to do that, Dylan. Once you go to this direction, you can't go back.
Exactly. Like it's too far now. They can't do it. They could have done it before he got his own solo book, but now everything that's happened in his solo book, it's impossible for them to undo it. And like they could, but they're not going to.
I've got the story where they could do it.
Oh yeah, you can just
What
say
if-
this isn't him. Yeah.
Yes, he was
exactly
gone for 7
Switcheroo.
years on another planet, and the John Kid they brought back is from another multiverse.
Yep.
He's an infiltrator from multiverse Earth 11. They set him in there, right? And they still have him. They got to go save him.
Well, it works perfectly, but they wouldn't do Fate Gay John. They wouldn't do that.
Well, let's put it for what it is. They could do it, and there are probably at least half a dozen different ways you could do it. The problem is the people who are making the decisions about whether you do or do not do it are listening to Twitter. They're in it for the cachet and the social currency or whatever term you want to use for certain communities and certain groups of people. They just don't want to do it. It's not a question about can you do it or how you do it. It's a question of priorities. The people who are making those decisions are not prioritizing what is best for the character. They're prioritizing what they think is going to get them the most likes and clicks at the moment. And as long as that priority is still the priority, they're not going to make any major changes.
Absolutely. We also got Retro Man here. Is it John Kent bisexual? Not that's better.
Tim Drake is the bisexual.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they're both
John,
bisexual.
John technically is, but it's
I
like a
consider
cop
this
out.
gay erasure at this point, Josh. It's not like he's going to be out with a girl anytime soon.
Yeah, they keep trying to not go all in on just saying a character's gay, so they come with some roundabout description of what they are, or they're trying to figure it out, or whatever it might be. But yeah, that's gay erasure. How dare you assholes? Gay men are real and they exist.
And the other reason why they do it is because it's their easy excuse for why it's whatever they're going to do now with making them gay. It just completely violates all the continuity led up to that point.
Yeah. So if
it's their
anyone,
excuse.
Yeah, if anyone does start dating a girl, it's no. Like they're still bisexual. They're just dating a girl right now.
Jay Nakamura happened. He just turned him off to dudes.
Yeah.
Jay Nakamura dyes his hair with pink kryptonite and made John gay.
Ooh.
Man, I want to see Jean Grey in the DC universe when we find out in a flashback that
And she's just making everyone gay.
Yes. Cool down mind wiping people. Thank you so much to Retro Man and everyone for supporting the channel today. We had a lot of fun. Our first sponsored video, I want to say thank you very much to Frank Zanka and Destiny Horizons and their graphic novel, Destiny. What?
It was Jimmy's comment. Pink Kryptonite is John Kent's drag name.
I was like, did I say Frank's name wrong? It's
No,
like,
I'm
Jesus,
sorry.
Jimmy.
I just read it and I couldn't.
Fucking Comic Works comedy hour here, man. Take the stuff seriously. Definitely want to say thank you very much to Frank Zanka and Destiny Horizons for sponsoring today's video. Definitely go to Destiny Horizon or DestinyAurora.net today. Check out that graphic novel. There's other stuff in there. There's an additional board game, an RPG. There's an additional 4 novels if you like the story itself. So Great stuff there. Really appreciate everyone for supporting the sponsors. And I guess it's time to wrap this bad boy up and talk about the comic books that we're going to recommend this week. And I'm absolutely recommending Destiny Aurora. Go out there and check out that website today and support those guys. Gabe, what are you recommending this week? You got any comic books that were good? This was a bad week. I just want to put that
this was a rough week. I'm going to be honest with you, and a lot of mid type issues. The one on the DC side that I'm going to recommend is Batman versus Robin #1. I hear some kind of weird chatter about people like Damian would never, hurt people. It's like, you didn't read the comic. If that's your reaction, because you have to read it. But it was well drawn. It's not. It's Mahmoud Asrar did the art. He was the artist on the King Conan series, and it looks great. The writing's good. Everything about that, you get some feels moment with Alfred, so I like that a lot. On the Marvel side, it's a soft recommend. It's not a hard recommend. It's a soft recommend. Is Predator #2. I kind of like the series. I like what the series is doing. I like where it's going. It's not.
Here's my question, Gabe.
Okay.
Who am I supposed to be rooting for? I think I'm supposed to be rooting for the Predator, not to be murdered by the 90-pound girl that goes around and murders predators every day.
Okay. All right. So the main criticisms I hear are twofold. One is, where does it fit in the film continuity? And the answer is, they never said it did. So you got to let that
This
one
is
go.
me on that one.
Okay. All right. Fine. So the second one is, how does this little girl kill a predator? The answer is, between the time that she sort of goes on this revenge quest to where you catch up with her in the current day is 15 years. That is a long time to do nothing but train, develop armor, develop weaponry, hand-to-hand combat.
But she's not in danger. That's my point, Gabe. I'm not rooting
She gets
for her
hurt.
to win.
She gets hurt in the current episode. She gets shot through the shoulder from some scavengers that are hunting
her. It wasn't even a predator that was putting her in danger. It's other people.
I'm seeing the character be developed and grow and progress. Now, is it everybody's pace, and does everybody just want to see wall-to-wall predator action? This is not the comic for you. But if you're willing to you're willing to give the story, let the story breathe and develop. So far, I'm okay with it. That's why I say
it's a great story to be told. They just jump to the end of it.
It's a soft recommend. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I get it. It's not a straight out Predator comic. I get it. But what I've seen so far, I like. So it's a soft.
I tried reading Predator Hunters, which is kind of very similar to this one, and that book is perfectly fine when the Predators is fighting the people. But there's so much other crap that was like, I can't read this.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong, Gabe. I'm just pointing out there. I've never argued with you on a recommendation, but I
support your right to be wrong.
I think you're so far off base here, sir.
We'll see. I mean, the next couple issues could prove me wrong, but so far I'm okay with.
I think the Predator is the protagonist of the book, and the girl is the antagonist. She's hunting them down, murdering them.
Well, so far you've only seen her kill one predator, and that was in mid-battle.
She said she's
you don't
killed
know what
dozens.
Well, she said, but you never see it. You never get the circumstances, and she even says it in the dialogue that some of her first hunts or battles, if we want to call it, caused some significant damage. She's scarred a little bit. She's, she came away from it barely, and with the help of this AI and the ship and weaponry and everything else. So I'm willing to give it a chance. So far, I'm okay with it. I like where it's going so far.
And I like Predator. I like Predator comics, but this one, I thought it was a mess of the first issue. But
I could be wrong. I could wind up being as wrong as Drew about Romvi and Swamp Thing. That could be the case.
You could be as wrong as Jimmy about everything.
Jimmy is wrong about everything. This is true.
All right, Dylan, what do you recommend this week? What should people be reading?
Nothing that came out this week am I recommending, but I just read the Hunter Ninja Bear from Chuck Dixon. That was really good. Had some cool lore. So I had a 12-issue trade paperback. It was really good. And then off your recommendation, Wes, I actually just read Nottingham Volume 1, and that was great.
Nice.
We talked about that like 9 months ago. That thing's great, isn't it?
Yeah, I was at Emerald City Comic Con. They had it, and I was like, oh, yeah, Wes said that book's really good, so I picked it up. So those are my two.
Volume 2 is better. Volume 2 gets better.
Yeah, I think Volume 2 is coming out soon, like in the next couple of weeks, actually.
Finishing up right now. Or it just finished up last month.
It just finished.
Yeah, I think
the trade will be out.
Yeah, I think in October it comes out. Because I remember looking at it once I finished Volume 1.
Yeah, they take it. Oh, no. We just lost power here.
Hurry up and finish. Hurry up and finish.
We got to finish this bad boy. Josh, real quick, do you have any recommendations?
None from
Very
this
quick.
week. I'm still playing catch up, so I caught up on like Batman and Detective and stuff. But my recommendations, one from last week. If you haven't picked up Fantastic Four Full Circle, please go do it. It's a solid book. Great art, and not what you would expect from Alex Ross art-wise, but still fantastic. And then next week, save your money this week. And next week, No Man's Land, Omnibus, Volume 2. Go get it.
Absolutely. Doc, do you have a recommendation to hit? Remember, I'm losing power.
Yes, I'm recommending our sponsor, Destiny Aurora from Frank Zonka.
Absolutely.
Go check it out, definitely. And that's it.
And there is a link in the video description if you want to just go hit that one. You don't want to type out the website, David. I want to say thank you to everyone. You're going to hear from Drew very soon as we talk about the best comic books of the week here probably tomorrow. We're going to be recording that if the power comes back. Thank you very much to everybody. I got to get out of here before this thing dies. What the hell happened here?
Bye.